Hello there. How's my sound?
I was trying to get my sound done too. I think we finished
Your
it.
what?
I was trying to get my sound to work too. I think we got it at the same time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let me see
Can you hear
something.
me okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
Yay. Hey, everybody.
Trying to change it to my earpiece. Let me know if that works or not. If that sounds okay to you, or does it sound terrible?
Sounds good. Uh, oh, have you done it yet? Mm.
All right. Here we go. I can hear you typing away over there.
Oh, sorry. I'm trying to get like everything set up.
No, it's fine.
Let me
Sounds good.
see. Now, Daisy's gonna be a few minutes late. She said.
Okay, one moment.
Right. Yeah, my keyboard's right by the microphone. That makes sense.
And hi, everybody. Hello. Long time since I caught y'all. Never finished it. This is very interesting. It is. It's a very, very interesting one. So hope everybody is doing well. Oh, the sound is good. Thank you guys. Keep us accountable here on the sound because Lord knows
Yeah,
we're
and
trying
it's
to
weird too.
do.
It's like midday one. So
Yeah, middle of work, middle of all the things that are happening all at once.
okay.
There it
Mm.
is. Hey.
Do we remember where we were?
Yep. If you scroll through a bit, um,
Let me
we
get this
were
one.
at. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Right there. So I'm gonna mute my
Hooray!
other phone so that I can turn this around and look at it. Yeah. Okay. Jennifer McCabe's phone records. That's where we were. Do we know what time Miss Dietz is going to be here?
I don't know. She just said it should be a few minutes. So
Okay. Okay. So we can wait a bit and chat with our guys here. Dietz got you
look
into
at
this
Billy.
case.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
She pulled it all in
Dandelion.
by her hair.
Hmm.
Well,
She
I think
did.
Tracy, you were already looking at it, weren't you? You just
Yeah,
weren't.
I told her. I think she had briefly seen it too, and then I told her about it. I was like, I'm kind of addicted to this. And she was just like, oh, yeah, interesting, whatever, you know. And then a friend of hers on Twitter was like, you need to look at this. And before you know it, she was addicted. Now, this is like her favorite thing to talk about. So, yeah,
Yeah,
all
it's
the dogs are out. It's daytime. So, you're going to hear my dogs and all the
it's
things.
all I've been doing.
Isn't it crazy?
It is because as I go through like each document, I'm like, wait a minute, it said this here, and like these will go, well, yeah, remember me telling you that, and I'm like, yeah, but I wasn't like,
You
I
weren't
didn't
into
really
it
know
then.
that
So, you're like,
at the time.
huh? Yeah.
Yeah, but I do remember her saying those things, like when she reminds me,
Well,
she's like, you remember when I said this, and I'm like, yes, now it makes sense.
right. Because before you're super into this, you're like, what? I don't know what you're saying. So you're
Hmm.
not invested yet. Just like Murdoch, you guys kept telling me, and I'm like, I don't care about this dumb thing. And then when I got in it,
Hi.
I'm like, whoa, hey, Deeps.
How's my audio? Am I echoing?
No,
Uh-uh.
not to
Okay.
me.
They have a StreamYard app now. I didn't even know that till the other day.
What?
Yeah.
I didn't
Oh,
either.
I'm on the app.
I bet that's so
You're
much
getting
better.
all the updates, dude. You get all the
It's like
updates.
I
We're
got the
getting nothing.
deets.
That's
Yeah,
right.
We
yeah,
got nothing.
Discord updated and it looks so stinking cool.
Yeah, it's
But
pretty cool.
it didn't update for you guys, did it?
No. And I even restarted my phones thinking, okay, I want the pretty colors too. But I didn't get it. Evil Queen says, I'm so invested now. I know. Same.
Oh, it's
Same.
good. It's good.
I love it so much.
All right. Whenever we are ready to start reading, I am ready to go if y'all are.
Let's do the thing.
I'm done with meetings for the day. I'm so excited. That one just ended. So. Yay, I'm free.
Awesome. Had the most busy morning. So you're on a computer, Jenny. Can you read them? I'll be on a computer at some point, but right now it's in use. So
Sure.
We can see him too. If we can, yeah. If you need a break, I can still see him too.
Oh,
I can see him. It's just little for me right now on this one because there's so much information in this one.
yeah, there is, and I've still got because I didn't have time to pull each one of them down. It's actually in Messenger. It's like that's what we're looking at. This is like It's in Messenger. So, okay. Do you want to read it, and I'll pull these down so we can? It'll be bigger on the screen. Do you mind reading this, Steve?
Oh yeah, no problem. Okay,
Thank you.
this is January 29th. Now, is this what was our last slide we did that they had found him, right? And so from here on, we get a bunch of phone data, a ton of phone data. So it's going to seem kind of redundant, but it's what we have to work with. And again, all of this stuff comes from the documents in the bottom right-hand corner of every slide. It tells you which document it came from. So on January 29th from 6:07, remember he was found at 6:04. There should have been a slide before this, Jenny, about them calling 911. Did we go through that one already? Is there not one in between those two? That's okay. You're muted, by the way, if you're talking.
Of course, I was talking. Okay. Okay. Sorry. This is why I don't like doing on this. Okay. Is this right?
Okay. Yes. So 6:03:47, Jen McCabe calls 911. It was answered. The call lasts for 3 minutes and 32 seconds. This call was deleted from Jen's phone. And then the highlighted portion just shows you where it is in Richard Green's affidavit and the time there.
Miss Deleter. And that's what makes
Man.
people so suspicious of this whole situation.
Yeah, she is. I've never seen anything like that. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I know, it's a lot. So 6:04 on the 29th, Canton PD is dispatched to the scene at 34 Fairview. Officer Seraph is the first to arrive. And this shows you here in the document where it says that EMS and Canton Fire PD was dispatched. Officer Seraph was the first to arrive. I gotta make it a little bit bigger to see that part of it. And on the scene when he observed 3 females waving at him from the front yard of the residence.
And we know who those 3 females were, clearly. Carrie, Jen, and Karen.
Correct. When they got there, if you remember, Carrie and Karen went over to administer CPR, and Jen stayed in the car to call 911. So just to give you a little idea of what the three of them were doing. So at between 6:07 and 6:24 is when these phone records. So there was getting to be a lot of phone records, so I condensed a lot of them to put them together on one slide. At 6:07, Jim McCabe calls Nicole Albert. It's answered. They speak for 9 seconds. This is right after the 911 call. At 6:08, she calls Nicole Albert again. It was answered as well for 7 seconds. At
Which
6:08,
both are interesting to me, right?
they're very short. What can you say in 7 seconds, right? It's a very small window.
Sure.
And that is one thing that I'm interested in hearing from, like, if this goes to trial, from the experts, from both experts, because I have a feeling that the prosecution is going to have a better expert than who initially downloaded the data for them. If this does go to trial, to kind of, refute, go back and forth with the defense's expert. But I'm very interested in seeing if they're able to confirm, and prove how it wasn't a voicemail answer, if it was something different. So at 6:08:35, Jim McCabe takes a screenshot of Brian Albert's contact info. And we have that slide in the next one. At 6:23, Jim calls Brian Albert. It goes unanswered. At 6:23:49, Jim searches how long does it take to digest food. At 6:23:51, Jen searches how long to die in cold, and you can see the misspelling there. And then at 6:24:18, she searches how long to die in cold. Now, I think the digest food one is because if you go to your search engine right now and you put in how long to DI, that's the first thing that pops up, digest food. So I think that's probably what
I'm going to try it. I'm going to Safari, and then I'm going to hit Google here. And then how long does it take to die? Yep, that's the first thing. How long does it take to digest food?
Yeah, so I think that she was just trying to search how long does it take to die of the cold, and that was the first thing that popped up. I don't think it has anything to do with the actual question about digesting food.
Right.
No.
And really quick here, because I have heard this said in other places, it is not because she doesn't. Jennifer McCabe did not have access to the food contents in his stomach at the time, so she was not Googling that to see how long he had been deceased. As far as we know, he was not yet deceased. So that seems obvious to me. It seemed obvious to me, but I did hear people saying that was the case, that she was Googling how long to digest food so she would know how long he had been deceased. And she doesn't have access to the contents of his stomach. So
no, he wasn't. We're going to come up here pretty quick on when they declared him deceased. So he was still alive at this point. And again, all of this was deleted from her phone.
Yep. And Dietz does have the source of each and every one of our slides. This is the affidavit of Richard Green.
Yeah, this
None of this has come from anything but the official records.
And this is just a screenshot that would be all those phone records, but I can put it in later too. If you want to go on to the next one, Jimmy. Okay, so up there in the right-hand corner, you see the screenshot. That's the actual screenshot. Of course, his number is redacted. But you see it says Uncle Brian A, and that it says home number 3. Excuse me. So it's likely his third phone, or at least her third contact information that she has on there. And then this is between the time frame of 6:07 and 6:24. These are just all the pictures of proof from what we discussed on the last slide. So this is everything you need to know, where it came from, and all those sources. So I don't think I need to reread that. At 6:24, Sergeant Lank arrives on the scene, initially only staying 1 hour. Now, this came from the Canton PD incident report. His initial, it's called the original report, if you see that out there being talked about. Canton Police Department Detective Sergeant Lank, who was not scheduled to work on January 29th, 2022, was asked by Sergeant, I don't know if it's Good or Goody, but Good, to respond to the scene for some unknown reason to conduct interviews with Brian Albert and his family. Sergeant Lank arrived at Brian Albert's home at approximately 6:24 a.m. and was only on scene for about an hour before returning to the Canton Police Department. We lost Tracy. You're muted, Jen.
Oh no.
Okay.
I know.
You can go to the next. Oh, you did. Okay. Sorry, I was looking
No, you're fine.
up. Now we don't have an exact time frame on this, so I'm going to say that it was within 5 minutes, and you'll see why. So John O'Keefe is transported to the hospital. The time's not exact. Link's report says shortly after he arrives, and I would figure that shortly after is within 5 minutes. And this says here in the incident report that the ambulance left for Good Samaritan Hospital shortly after I arrived, and that is from Officer Lank.
Yay, now I can see much better.
There you go. So at 6:29, roughly, sometime after 6:29, this took place. Sometime after John was transported to the hospital, Karen was as well. And this comes from the supplemental narrative from Officer Mullaney. And he says, while talking to McCabe, Reed was hysterical and distraught and repeatedly screamed, "Is he dead? And that's my boyfriend." Sergeant Good then advised Roberts Carey to take Karen home. After Karen and Carey left, Canton Control advised officers that Karen was making suicidal statements to her father. Carey then brought Karen back to the scene where Sergeant Good asked me to fill out a Section 12 paperwork, and she was transported to the Good Samaritan Hospital. I'm guessing, I did not look up what the Section 12 report was, but it sounds like a 5150 type situation.
Yeah, I think so.
That's the same slide, but there we go. At 6:30, the first search of the crime scene begins. Following the victim's transport from the scene, they began to search for any evidence around where Mr. O'Keefe had been discovered. In the mounds of snow on the front lawn of the residence adjacent to the roadway, they located a broken cocktail-style glass and multiple patches of red that appeared to be blood in the vicinity of where the body had been located. The Canton officers secured the glass and 6 blood samples from the snow as evidence. This comes from the Commonwealth's memorandum, and it should also be noted that they collected these blood samples inside of red Solo cups provided by a neighbor. They were not provided by the Alberts. They didn't go to the Alberts' door and ask them for anything. They were provided by a neighbor. And it's
Do
a
we
weird
mind
thing.
if I read the original report, the pages 4 through 8?
Yeah, that'd be good.
Okay. I don't know if I can share my screen. I think I can.
You should be able to. Do you want me to pull it up? Is it the original?
Oh,
there it is.
I have it right there. Okay. Oh, look at that. All right. On 1/29/2022, I was the patrol supervisor of the 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. shift. At approximately 6:04 a.m., I received 911 call from a woman reporting an unresponsive male party found in the snow at 34 Fairview Road. At the time, the weather was very heavy with snow, with the air temperature in the teens. The call was then transferred to Canton Fire, and I dispatched Officer Sarif and Mullaney to assist. I notified Lieutenant Gallagher and Detective Sergeant Lank respectfully after hearing the seriousness of the call. Once on the scene, the victim was already in the back of the ambulance and CPR was in progress. I was met by McCabe Jennifer, Roberts Carrie, and Reed Karen, standing outside of the ambulance. All parties will be referenced by their first names going forward. Jennifer introduced me to herself and explained that they found their friend O'Keefe John lying unresponsive on his back in the snow. Jennifer explained that they arrived at this address because it was the last place Karen believed he would be. Jennifer stated she'd gotten a call from Karen around 4:53 a.m. inquiring about John's whereabouts. She told Karen she didn't know where he was. I asked Jennifer why she would think that you would know where he was. Jennifer explained that a group of them had all been at the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton earlier in the night. At around 12 a.m., Jennifer and her husband left the bar, heading to her brother-in-law, Brian Albert's house at 34 Fairview Road. Jennifer stated Karen and John were at the bar together around 12:14. John texted Jennifer asking where were they going. Jennifer invited them to 34 Fairview Road. A short time later, Jennifer stated that she saw Karen and John pull up in their car and saw the passenger door open, but they never came in, and she saw the car drive off. Jennifer just thought they changed their mind and went home for the night. I walked over to Karen and asked her who she was and how she ended up here. I also placed Karen in the back of my marked Cruiser 682 to warm up. Karen was hysterical and continually yelling, "Is he dead?" I kept reassuring her that Canton Fire was doing everything that they could to save his life. I asked how John ended up there, and she said, "I don't know." I asked her if she drove here last night, and she said, "I think so," and then said, "I can't remember." At this point, I stopped asking questions because she was too upset and she was unable to keep her train of thought. At this time, Detective Sergeant Lank arrived on the scene, and I briefed him on what had transpired so far. Then I spoke to Carrie, who stated she was contacted by her friend Karen at 5 a.m., wondering if she knew where John was. Carrie stated that she called a few hospitals and the Canton police to see if he had been transported at some time during the night. Then Carrie picked up Jennifer and Karen, and they began to search for John, ending up here at 34 Fairview. Canton Fire began to transport the victim to the Good Samaritan, and Karen, who was now sitting in Carrie's car, began to act out, yelling and screaming, "Is he dead?" and trying to get out of the car and walk around. At this time, I advised Carrie to take Karen home and that she was not needed anymore. Moments later, I was contacted by dispatch that Karen was making suicidal statements to her father over the phone. I made a decision to have Carrie bring Karen back to the scene and had her transported to the hospital via Section 12. Detective Sergeant Lank at this time contacted the homeowner at 34 Fairview Road and completed a supplemental report. I spoke to Officer Saraf and asked him what he observed after arriving on the scene. Saraf stated he saw a woman, Karen, attempting CPR on the victim in the snow. Saraf stated Karen had blood around her mouth, from which he believed was from the victim's mouth and nose area. Saraf explained seconds later, Canton Fire arrived at the scene and took over medical care, and then moments later, I arrived. This is Saraf here. On 129, I was dispatched to 34 Fairview Road for a report of an unresponsive party in the snow. When I arrived, I saw 3 people on the ground over the victim. O'Keefe waving at me. So they were waving at the victim. They were waving at the officer while they were over the victim. They said he was not breathing. They were performing CPR on O'Keefe. I noticed Reed Karen, the victim's girlfriend, had blood on her face from doing mouth to mouth. O'Keefe was bleeding from his face. I went over to the victim and felt his skin. It was cold to the touch. I asked if he was a drug user, and they said no, he's a Boston cop. I went to get AED from my patrol, and at the same time, the Canton Fire Department was arriving. CFD took over the care of Mr. O'Keefe. Following that, Reed Karen kept screaming, "Is he dead? Is he dead?" She was severely distraught and was not able to tell me what happened. I tried to console her and keep her out of the inclement weather. I had her sit in one of the cars. Sergeant Good arrived and started speaking to the parties that were there.
Before you go on to the next one, there's a couple things I want to point out, and it's just to make note of it. One, she did CPR on him. I mean, there's still a case, in my opinion, for involuntary manslaughter, maybe, but if she intentionally tried to murder this man, would she be doing CPR on him? And also note that this officer placed Karen in the back of the car because there's going to be allegations made about some things that she was doing later. And here it states that he placed her in the back of the car because she was hysterical and saying, you know, is he dead? Is he dead? All those things, which you place into the context of her just trying CPR on him. It sounds a lot less nefarious than how it's been made to sound prior.
Good, Nunya. AED is the defibrillate.
The shocker.
The shocker.
The shocker.
I couldn't get that one out there. Okay. This is the supplemental report from Mulaney. On Wednesday, January 29th, Officer Mulaney was assigned to patrol the East Sector for the 11:45 p.m. to 7:45 a.m. patrol shift. At approximately 6:05, Officer Sheriff and I were dispatched to 34 Fairview for a report of an unresponsive party. Upon my arrival, Canton Fire Department was on the scene. Officer Seraph had already been on the scene. When I exited my cruiser, I observed a female party attempting CPR on the victim in the snow. As I approached the victim, Canton Fire Department began CPR. I then assisted Canton Fire Department with lifting the victim onto a stretcher. The victim was then taken by stretcher to the ambulance. At this time, Officer Seraph asked me to assist in getting witness information. I then spoke with McCabe Jennifer. I asked McCabe who the victim was, and she identified the victim as O'Keefe John. McCabe then explained to me that a group of people had gone out to the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton Center earlier in the night. Jennifer stated that she and her husband left the bar at approximately midnight and went to her brother-in-law's house at 34 Fairview Road. McCabe then told me that O'Keefe and his girlfriend Reed Karen were invited to 34 Fairview but never arrived. I asked McCabe if she possibly knew how long the victim had been where he was found, and she told me he was dropped off by Reed sometime between 12 and 1.
Dropped off by Reed.
Yeah, dropped off by Reed. Also, if we were to go back up or not, but she said that they arrived, the passenger door opened, and she watched Karen drive away.
Now remember, this is in the original report.
This is the original report. The very first thing that anybody knew about this case, right? So, she was dropped off by Reed sometime between 12 and 1. McCabe then told me that she was called by Reed at approximately 5 a.m., wondering if she knew where John was. At this time, Sergeant Good arrived on the scene, and the victim was transported to the Good Samaritan shortly after. While talking to McCabe, Reed was hysterical and distraught and repeatedly screaming, "Is he dead? That's my boyfriend." Sergeant Good then advised Roberts Carey to take Reed home. After Reed and Roberts left, Canton Control advised officers that Reed was making suicidal statements to her father. Roberts then brought Reed back to the scene, where Sergeant Good asked me to fill out a Section 12 paperwork, and she was transported to Good Samaritan Hospital. I stayed on the scene and assisted Sergeant Good, Detective Sergeant Lang, and Lieutenant Gallagher. This is Lank. This is all the same thing, except he says there is a Boston police officer who was in grave condition, and Canton EMS was on the scene. The conditions at this time were blizzard-like, with heavy snow, wind, and freezing temperatures. At approximately 6:24, I arrived on the scene. Good, Seraph, Mulaney had already spoken to multiple witnesses, and the victim was being treated in the ambulance by Canton EMS. The ambulance left for Good Samaritan shortly after I arrived. Good made me aware that the officers and EMTs told him the victim was bleeding from the nose and mouth. They also stated he appeared to have swelling above one of his eyes. The first person I spoke to was McCabe Jennifer. She was able to provide us with a general timeline of events. Jennifer was at Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton with her husband, Matthew McCabe, Brian Albert, brother-in-law, and Nicole Albert, her sister. Approximately 11 p.m., they were accompanied at the bar by O'Keefe John and his girlfriend, Reed Karen. Approximately midnight, Jennifer, Matthew, Brian, and Nicole left the bar, went back to the Alberts house at 34 Fairview Road. At approximately 12:14 a.m., O'Keefe texted Jennifer and asked where they were going. Jennifer responded they were going to 34 Fairview Road. Moments later, a vehicle pulled up in front of the house, which Jennifer believed was O'Keefe and his girlfriend Reed. She observed the vehicle as the vehicle just sat in front of the house for several minutes. The vehicle was facing uphill with the passenger side facing the house. She thought that the vehicle sat outside for at least 15 minutes. McCabe stated that neither party ever came up to the door, and ultimately the vehicle drove away. She attempted to text O'Keefe but never got a response. Approximately 1:30 a.m., McCabe and her husband leave the house and give a ride home to Julie Nagel, who lives on Highland Street in Canton. Approximately 4:53 a.m., McCabe was contacted by Reed and Blank, the niece of O'Keefe. They were distraught because O'Keefe never arrived home and was not answering his phone. McCabe and Reed attempted to call some of O'Keefe's closest friends, including Roberts Carey. Approximately 5 a.m., Roberts picks up McCabe and Reed to go looking for O'Keefe. Approximately 6 a.m., Roberts, McCabe, and Reed locate Keefe in the yard of 34 Fairview Road. He was located on the left side of the yard, about 8 feet in from the street. He was found unconscious on the ground, laying on his back. Roberts began to perform CPR. Approximately 6:04 a.m., 911 call was placed to the Canton Police Station. Officers on the scene were able to secure the scene as best they could as the weather conditions continued to be severe. State Police CPAC unit was contacted at 6:38 a.m. Trooper Proctor called back within a few minutes and was made aware of the situation. While on the scene, all attempts to speak with Reed were unsuccessful. She was hysterical and difficult to control. The only statement she was able to relay to Canton officers while on the scene was that she did not remember ever being at 34 Fairview Road. Reed later made statements via telephone to her parents threatening suicide. Canton EMS ultimately responded to the scene, and Reed was taken to the hospital under a Section 12 order. Next, I went to 34 Fairview Road and spoke to the homeowners, Albert Brian and Albert Nicole. Both parties from this point forward will be referred to by their first names. Brian stated he had seen the victim at the Waterfall Bar and Grill and had spoken to him. He stated that he did not know the party well, but knew that he was a friend of McCabe's sister-in-law. Brian and Nicole recalled that the victim had been welcome to come to their house, but never arrived. When asked about O'Keefe's demeanor or if O'Keefe had any altercations with anyone earlier at the bar, Brian said he seemed to be fine at the bar and there were no issues whatsoever. McCabe Matthew, husband of Jennifer, also stated that he had observed the vehicle pull up in front of the house, but never saw either party get out of the vehicle. Matthew also reiterated what Brian said. O'Keefe seemed to be fine at the bar. There was really nobody else in the establishment other than their group. Next, I asked Brian and Nicole who else was at the house that night. Aside from the names already mentioned, the following people were present at some point during the night: Brian Albert Jr., Caitlin Albert, Julie Nagel, Brian Jr.'s friend, and Brian Higgins, who is a friend of Brian Albert Sr. They advised me it was around 12:15 a.m., and she was picked up by her boyfriend, Tristan Morris. While on the scene, Lieutenant Gallagher, Sergeant Good, and I attempted to retrieve as much evidence as possible given the weather conditions. Gallagher was able to use a leaf blower to blow away top layers of the snow. We were able to observe a broken drinking glass and multiple patches of red, which appeared to be frozen blood drops. 6 samples of the substance was received by using red Solo plastic cups. The broken glass was retrieved and bagged into evidence. Both items were returned to the Canton Police Station and logged as evidence. At approximately 9 a.m., I was contacted by the police. I was contacted at the police station by McCabe Jennifer. She asked if it was possible to come back to 34 Fairview Road and speak with her. Lieutenant Gallagher and I both left immediately and arrived back at 34 Fairview within a few moments. McCabe told us she recalled something she was not sure if we were aware of. She said when Reed was driving around with her and Roberts looking for the victim, she said something to the effect of, "I hope I didn't hit him." McCabe told us she made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered. She thought Reed may have made these statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure. So they got the solo cups from a neighbor, by the way. Also, just a side note on number 6, they list everybody who had been in the house except for Colin Albert. That'll come later, though.
Well, and the other girl. There was another
Oh,
girl that
the
the
other girl, too.
McCabe's took home, and they left her name off as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, do we know why they use solo cups? Did they
They
not?
got them from a neighbor. I don't know.
I know they did. I mean, but like,
Right.
why?
How weird is that, though?
Isn't it contaminated immediately? I mean, how can you do that?
Immediately. I mean, you're
It's a
detectives, you're a
practice.
sergeant. You just because it's snowing doesn't mean the protocols change of your job. You know how to do a crime scene. You know how to gather evidence. You know that there has to be very specific things with labels and all of that, but they're collecting stuff with solo cups. So my question is, did they have gloves? You know, the right kind of gloves on? Did they have the labels? You know, what? These could have been in the neighbor's house with, 8 dogs like me, or kids who touch every single thing, even if they're not going to use it. Like, what in the world is that? To me, that's very, very strange that happened.
Yeah, I
But
think it's very bizarre. It doesn't matter, what's going on. You still have procedures to follow when you're in law
Absolutely.
enforcement. You have to follow the
Yeah.
proper procedures. So that is bizarre.
It is.
I mean, they can't use
Struck-
any of that.
I would say
They
not.
can't.
Mhm.
I would say not. The defense can fight contamination on that and say that evidence was improperly secured, which is true. You're picking up, first of all, you're picking up snow, which is ultimately going to melt. So while you take pictures of it and document it really well, and maybe if you can get it tested immediately and keep it on ice and preserve it properly, okay. But you're putting it in a solo cup in a car. Solo cup in a car, it's going to melt, and that's it. Everything's contaminated. There's it's all wrong. It just doesn't make
That's really a shame, because if there's anybody else's,
Yeah, DNA in there.
it's upsetting because he is a Boston police officer, and to do such a shoddy job on his in collecting the evidence and not going into the home where he was supposed to be going, even though Karen says the passenger doors opened. Well, then wouldn't you think to yourself, there's a chance this man could have gone inside this home. We need to go in and speak to the homeowner to
yeah,
try to figure out and take some notes. And he's also, a cop. So he's going to let us in so that we can go look around, take some pictures, look up on his steps, take pictures of the stairs. Do you see any blood? Do you see anything on the bushes going up in the snow?
You would think that maybe Brian would come outside at some point. I don't know.
Well, because Jennifer did go inside and wake them up, and they never went out. Good Nunya, what evidence actually went into the solo cups? There were 6 drops of blood.
And snow went in with it.
Snow, but also, if she was giving him mouth to mouth, he was bleeding from the nose, from the mouth, and they noticed bruising on the face. When she got off of him, her face was covered in blood, as they said. So he also had a large gash in the back of his head, a really large gash. wasn't there a lot of blood underneath his head that you could have documented as well? I
Well, that's where his cell phone was, so I don't know if there's blood under there.
Well, was his
It's,
cell phone under his head?
I
Or
don't know where. I just know it was under his body, which is again another peculiar thing in my opinion. But
you'd think it would have
there's
stopped working as well. Like, why wouldn't his cell phone have just, I don't know.
right out in the cold, our phones quit in extreme heat and extreme cold.
Yeah.
Do you think maybe it was because like they didn't have the things they needed to collect, and because it was snowing, they thought they need to do something immediately? Maybe?
No, because you can keep control of your crime scene. Clearly, he was able to use a leaf blower. I know that the snow was coming down really hard, but why not set up a makeshift little tent, get a tarp, put it up, have people hold
Something.
it. This is a Boston cop you're talking about.
Right.
If you see the blood in the snow, do something. Get a trash bag from in the house. Just cover that up to make sure this is not going to be contaminated, because this is where the victim was laying. You could have done a number of things while you're
Yeah.
calling for evidence collection, the team to come, and also their first officers are seeing what's happening, so they're calling other officers in to let them know.
Mhm.
Does nobody carry any collection stuff with them anywhere? That
Yeah.
doesn't make sense to me. I don't know.
No, you're right. I was just trying to like make some sense out. Like that just blows my mind.
And Peace Faith says at the Glare, CERT team didn't arrive until 5:45 p.m. They miraculously found the tail light pieces that were missed by Canton PD. So, and that's another thing, I mean, this case, it's a lot, like we've said, which is why Dietz has done such an amazing job putting all this together.
Yeah.
But those things will always come to your mind, right?
Yeah.
That in addition, they found pieces of clear glass. You
Yeah.
heard in the original report, it's blizzard conditions at this point, allegedly, right? But they found
Although
clear
we
glass,
have the
not red taillights.
we
No.
have the snowfall reports of what was
Yeah.
happening at that time. It wasn't quite blizzard-like conditions.
No, it was too.
But they did. They borrowed a leaf blower, an over-the-counter leaf blower is what it says in one document, and they spent 2 hours meticulously combing through the crime scene, and they were able to find all the pieces of clear broken glass. But it wasn't until later that evening that they found the shoe.
How is that possible?
And by that time there was a lot more snow, but they found the shoe later as well as the taillight pieces.
Oh, I can't. Okay. All right. I can't. I just cannot.
Yeah, I mean, to say that it isn't even to say that somebody planned it or whatever. This is just odd.
No, that to me,
This-
that's just weird police,
Yeah.
If there are that
Right.
many, I don't want to be the conspiracy theorist here, but I'm going to. Okay. Let's
Damn
just
it.
face the damn facts for a second. Going by the documents alone, you borrowed a leaf blower. You're on the
Yeah.
scene. All these cops are there. Additionally, the house belongs to a cop. Okay. You have all these people who are there. If you're spending 2 hours searching, you're telling me his hat, his shoe, and bright red tail light glass, plastic, whatever, you don't find any of that? None of that.
Well, and you
What
brought
were you
up a
doing?
great point that it's not even just about John, although he deserved all of that work and then some.
Absolutely.
But you're also on the lawn of another police officer. You would think that they would put in, they would go the extra mile above and beyond,
Sure.
because now you're dealing with 2 Boston police officers, and you want to make sure everything is done right, done by the book, done
For sure.
properly. And there's a lot of little things. It doesn't seem like they took the time and care to do such.
Well, some beach, it was not 6 feet of snow at that time.
No.
There was not 6 feet of snow at that time. I understand that that's what people have been told, but I'm going to just really quickly show the snowfall totals, because we showed it on the last one, just so that everybody is very aware of what we're talking about. If you could let me share, Jenny, there you go. Okay, so this is 12:07 a.m., right when they're like getting out and starting to drive and whatever. So if you add up all this is from that day. Okay, it did not get heavy until later in the afternoon. All the way up to here. They're here right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've
And I
got
can see,
all
you
these
know,
little 0.1, 0.2s, 0.1, 0.2s. It started snowing heavier, sure, around 8:25.
and I can give them a little bit of slack in that avenue because they're writing this report later. And
Mhm.
so in their minds, they just went through this major blizzard, and that's what they're remembering. But
Yeah.
when you take the actual totals and look at it, when we look at the crime scene photos that are coming up, don't worry, there's nobody in them, it's just the scene. But
Yeah.
when you look at those coming up, you can see that it's not quite what it's being portrayed.
Right. We just got to be super clear that prior to this little light mist of snow, there was no snow on the ground. So all these 0.01, 0.01 of an inch, all of that added up, add it all up, and it does not come out to what we think it comes out to. And the narrative in the beginning was he was found in a snow bank during a blizzard. None of that is true. It's just a matter of how people report it. And that's really not fair to him. It's not fair to the reporting of the crime scene or what happened to him or to Karen Reed.
It's not fair to the other witnesses either. If people are
No.
going to implicate them in something,
Right.
it should just be fair that everything be accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
No, that was a good because there's just so much to so many spots, and like you guys were telling me initially, like there's just so much stuff that doesn't make sense, and they're really, I mean, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this.
Well, that's why it is taking me. I mean, the first time I was messaged about it was the end of July, and it still took us. Now I'm not working consistently on it, but it took a solid 6 weeks of pouring through these thousands of pages to start to piece it together properly. Because it is a lot. It's very confusing, and there's also like a lot of noise out there being told about it from all around.
Yeah.
And like Lara said, it's not fair to his family that they're having.
Right.
So because it's a big controversy now, with the Karen Reed stuff, and that's going to be very distressing to them. They don't want to. Of course, family's not going to want to think that another officer can be involved in this or something. You want it to kind of be that easy thing. She backed up into him. She didn't realize because she was too drunk, but they took it from that, like a vehicular manslaughter, to murder. And that's even crazy to me. But,
Well, I didn't realize either how quickly they arrested her.
Oh, yeah.
So quick. Not even a full investigation, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They still, it looks like they still haven't done a full, I'm sorry, but it does. It looks like they still haven't done a full investigation, but we don't have everything. So
we don't. Yeah.
It's extremely frustrating.
All right.
Okay, where are we? Did I read this one? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And since
6:30,
the first search of the crime scene begins. I'm going to skip reading over like the highlighted parts for most of them because like Tracy covered most of that. So, but they're there. You guys can see them. So at 6:30, the first search of the crime scene began. And here is the crime scene. You can especially tell in the middle picture where things are. You have to orientate yourself with the bush, the fence, the flagpole, and go to Google Earth and put yourself there and try to figure it out as well. It's really hard. what's her
Yeah.
name? Carrie testified that the grass was shown underneath of him. Like when they moved John, you could see the grass underneath of him. So he was not in any mulch or any wood chips because you could see the grass under it. There's no grass in the mulch or wood chips. And there would be mulch and wood chips they would have collected off of him,
Mhm.
if that makes sense.
And the other night, like Dees and I were trying to, like, she was trying to show me, like, based off of this photo, that this photo here, like, to orient. And it is really hard because you can't get Google Earth at the right angle, right? But you could see it. And once I saw it, I can't unsee where it is right now. And it was these bushes back here.
Yeah.
And then the gate, you can see, you can't see here, I don't think. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger. Okay, back here on the gate, you could see that this is the gate. There are the black pieces there when you're looking at it. They're the 3 bushes right here. And the flagpole right here. And they're standing like at an angle at the street to even get this view.
Right. That's the important part to remember is they're standing at an angle. So we're seeing things from different depth perceptions. Like I've shared a picture with the girls before of what the front lawn looks like from the front door. Everything looks, the hydrant and the fire pole look like they're right next to each other in that picture, but they're obviously not. They're like, what, 38 feet apart from each other according to Google Earth. That picture that Jenny has kind of zoomed in right now, I don't know if you guys can make it out on your screen or not, but if you go and find it yourselves, you can see the tracks of where there's a couple tracks right here around the hydrant, but if you look at it, the bulk of the tracks go over to the right side of the fire or the flagpole. So you can see where they were going with things, then put that in with the middle picture and see the location of where it all was. But the best way I can. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say you can see the distance here between the fire hydrant and the flag. You can see clearly that it's not close, but it looks like it is here. It really does. And this bush right here.
From another site to try to see if this is any more clear. Let's see.
And another thing that you can see from these photos also is the snow accumulation.
Yeah.
Now it's kind of built up a little bit around where he was found, but they took that off of him. And you're also, when you look back towards the flagpole and that stuff back there, that's not the fire hydrant back there, by the way, but when you look back towards that bush, that if you look at Google Earth and you do the 3D imaging, you can kind of see how it goes up a little bit. It's a hill. So it's not like that is, feet of snow back there. It's just a couple inches covering a hill that goes up.
And just for reference, these are the bushes right here. Those 3 bushes.
Yeah.
You can still see them sticking out over the snow.
Yeah.
So just to put that in perspective as well. Or try to.
Yeah, I have a little bit bigger picture, Jenny, but it might
good.
The same exact one. It's just blown up a bit on my screen. If you want to show it.
Oh, that's the one. Okay. Yeah.
It's the same one where you can see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do we know what time this was?
There.
The exact.
It looks like it's snowed a good bit more.
I think it has to be kind of, I don't know. I honestly don't know when it would have been.
Well, you can see about
4
inches on the cars. Let's see. Well, if you're looking at the fire hydrant too, and you're somebody who's dealt with the snow, it's not a lot on the fire hydrant, but bottom down here.
What's crazy because you could see the 2 tracks by the fire hydrant over there, where I guess they were checking like the perimeter.
Well,
but I could see people will mistake that for being
right. And I think that was because the officers, one of the first questions that they had for Nicole Albert was about the electrical box. And she said, no, the electrical box has been broken for a long time. And you can even see that on Google Earth, that the electrical box is kind of broken, tattered, or, what have you. So maybe that's why you had those footprints there, is they went around that, they went up to that electrical box and looked around. But she said no, it had been broken for a very long time.
I think we showed this, didn't we? Hold on. Let me just show this really quickly. This might... I don't want it to screw up anything, but... Hold on here. One moment, please.
Hold, please.
Please hold. Thank you. Please hold.
Hey, Miss Mo. And thank you.
Thank you so much, Miss Mo.
Oh, sorry, guys. I cannot look at chat. I'm painting still. But hello, Miss Mo.
All right, I am going to reshare something here, Jenny.
Okay.
In 1 minute.
I'm ready.
I'm trying to get down there. Hold on, please. Ping.
There's like sassy and sassafras Kath. We're very sassy in the chat.
Hello, you sassy bitches. All right,
Sassafras Cat. Her name always gets me. I struggle with it.
there you go. I'm sharing now. So here's the house. Okay, this is from Google Earth. I'm gonna go down a little bit here. Ping. Maybe not too much. Don't go too far. Okay. So there you go. Right. You can see the door. You can see this is not a big yard. It is not a big yard. Here's the flag. Let's say that 12 feet, I don't know, here. Even if it was here, it was not in the mulch.
Right.
That is a very small amount there.
Well, it has,
I'm
in
guessing
one report, it has 8 feet and one it has 12, but
12.
either one would put him in the mulch. So that's why, in my opinion, he's to just right of the flagpole, because if he was 8 feet in or if he was 12 feet in, he would be in the mulch. And, you know, Carrie's testimony and the picture, we can see that there was grass under him.
Yeah.
So when you do like this, the depth is so different, right? But when you do this and try and get a realistic view, you're coming out of one of these two doors, right? Maybe this one because it's snowing and you're coming out and you are going around the bench or down these little, it's brick right there, see?
Yeah.
And coming out.
There's another door there to the
Two
garage.
doors. And right here to the
I didn't
garage.
even notice that before.
Right,
Yeah.
that's the door that Karen said he went in, the side door.
The side door, which is this. Okay, so if that's the door that he went in and you're looking from the house or the lawn, if cars are parked here, right? You're walking out and what are you seeing here? I'm trying to get up to their house and do it, but it's difficult, right? How far
So
away is that?
When she let him out, she let him out at the driveway, correct?
No.
No, she was parked out
pulled
here,
up. Yeah, she was up further.
like right here. Here's where she was. So if he ran out and ran this way, did his footprints prove that? Did we look at the footprints? Because we know nobody come out of the house to go this way.
Well, would you be able to see him? Because it was just lightly, like
2 inches of snow?
Well, Ryan testified, no, that 2 inches of snow now, but Ryan testified that when he was there, it just, when they left the Waterfall Bar and Grill is when it had just started lightly snowing.
Sure. Yeah, lightly, right? But I'm wondering if, okay, so if you walk in the snow when it's 2 inch, when it's 1 inch, and then it's freezing temperatures at that point, she lets him out of the car. There would be footprints going from here up over there even if it snowed on top of them. Now, maybe because of the visibility, but again, we go back to the snowfall and it
Right.
was 0.01 inches. Clearly,
Yeah.
they didn't look to see, all right, did this guy go in the house? Well, how would we know? Let's look at the footprints. Were there footprints or no footprints? Like, did it just stop right here? Or was there stuff going here?
Would footprints have been covered at that point?
No. Nope.
You
Not
don't
when they
think?
got
Okay.
there. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Real quick, I know where I got, because I was like, wait a minute, I know I read that she dropped him off at the drive, or she was at the driveway, right? But Jennifer McCabe, in her second interview that day, said, it says, while at 34 Fairview Road, Jennifer observed a large black SUV on the street outside of the house and went to the front door. The black SUV did not pull into the driveway, but parked on the street by the entrance to the driveway. And so I think that's where that came from. Later, she calls it a car and
Right.
didn't see half of the things she saw in the other interviews, but whatever.
Well, Ryan says that she pulled up. So maybe once
Mhm.
he was pulling up this way, she just pulled up here.
The
Yeah,
part that
could
I
be.
find interesting from that testimony from Jen McCabe is that she doesn't mention the two vehicles. She just mentions one.
Right.
Right.
Because
Right.
Ryan was out there as well.
At
and-
the same time. Yep.
Mhm.
But if she saw it at the driveway, he wasn't there yet. He was still coming up the road. So maybe she just saw it for a second and didn't see the other vehicle.
She said she looked out, what, about 15
Oh
minutes?
yeah, she watched. I mean, if you go through and read her different statements from what she witnessed, yeah, she was basically watching the whole time.
She said that they sat there for at least 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Those are her words. I mean, why are you saying that? That means you're sitting there watching all of this. And what are you watching? Her not kill him? Because you say that you see her drive away. So if you saw her drive away and you watched for 15 minutes, at what point did she kill him and leave him on the lawn? At what point did
Well,
that happen?
I think she realized it because a few days later, when she talked to another trooper, a different trooper, she said next time she looked out, she was gone.
Yeah,
She left out. That's what I was
That
telling
was the
Teets
next
about
time.
yesterday. I was like, oh my God. And
Yeah.
Teets was like, yeah, that's what I was talking about. That's
Yeah,
what I was
in
talking
Proctor's interview, she does completely leave that out.
Absolutely. she
Mhm.
does.
Alrighty, let's see. Oh, she kicked
Okay,
herself
we
out,
ready?
probably trying to end that. But yeah, let's
Oh,
skip
no.
down this. I'm with
Okay.
you. Let's see.
Do what?
I read MJ's chat because I looked down to read that timeline. And I'm with her. It makes no sense. None of it makes sense to me.
No.
It's a very confusing case. So let me hop down here. I'm up on the ladder.
Do you want me to read some so you can?
I can do
I don't-
this one and then I'll let you just do the rest. So at
Okay.
6:35, Jen McCabe calls Matt McCabe, her husband, and they speak for 19 seconds. At 6:47, Jen receives a call from Matt. They speak for 18 seconds. At 6:52, Jen rejects a call from Matt. I think I had lined this up with something else that was going on at the time. I'll have to look at my notes. At 7:21:40, Jen calls Karen Reed. It goes unanswered. So Karen is gone by this stage. She's been transported to the hospital or she's in her vehicle with Karen at that point, or Carrie at that point. At 7:21:48, Karen calls Jen McCabe back. It's answered and they speak for 2 minutes and 19 seconds. That's the end of the slide.
Sorry, I
Um,
couldn't get to my arrow. I couldn't get that little arrow to pop up. I'm sorry.
At 7:24, Sergeant Link leaves 34 Fairview. He's only there an hour. And he returns to the Canton PD. An interview with Brian, Nicole, Matt, and Jen took place within the last hour inside the house. So sometime in that time frame, the four of them had an interview with Officer Link inside of 34 Fairview. At 7:33, I have got like a frog in my throat today. At 7:33, Jen calls Carrie Roberts. It's answered, and they only speak for 4 seconds. At 7:49, Jen calls Carrie again. It's answered, and they speak for 1 minute and 49 seconds.
Yeah, April, the math is not mathing.
Man. And these are all deleted. All those are deleted.
Yeah.
So here we have either at 7:50 or 7:59, because in the Commonwealth's memorandum, it says 7:50. In the defense's motion, it says 7:59. I don't know which one it is, but John O'Keefe is declared dead at the Good Samaritan Hospital. One document states 7:50, the other 7:59. At 7:59, Massachusetts State Police officially assume jurisdiction. The Massachusetts State Police officially assumed jurisdiction of the case upon Mr. O'Keefe's passing at 7:59.
Mm.
At 8:30, Julie Albert arrives at 34 Fairview to deliver donuts to Brian Albert Jr. for his birthday. Now, just a refresher, Julie Albert is Brian Albert's sister-in-law. Is Colin's mom as well. So Brian Albert's sister, Julie, also appeared at Brian Albert's residence that morning. Julie Albert testified at the grand jury that she went to Brian Albert's house at 8:30 a.m. on January 29th, 2022 to drop off Dunkin' Donuts for Brian Albert Jr.'s birthday. She explained that when she got there, Brian Albert insisted that she come inside and told her that there had been an accident. This comes from the defense motion, so I just want you to be aware that this part comes from the next part comes from the defense. It says, however, in a prior statement to Sergeant, and I cannot say his name, Sergeant B and Sergeant Tolley, on February 10th, 2022, Miss Albert accidentally let it slip that she actually found out about John dying when her phone woke her at 4:55 a.m. to a call from Jennifer McCabe, and that it was a missed call. So that's what she says prior. Oh my goodness, so we're only up to 8 o'clock, 8:38 to 9. The Canton Police Department called Jennifer McCabe. Canton PD calls Jennifer McCabe. She answers. They speak for 2 minutes and 45 seconds. At 8:45, Carrie calls Jen. She answers. They speak for 4 minutes and 15 seconds. At 8:50, Tom B calls Jen. It's a missed call. At 8:59, Jen calls Sergeant Link. It's answered and they speak for 13 seconds. At 8:59, Carrie calls Jen. It's answered. They speak for 5 minutes and 28 seconds. I have to guess that she probably clicked over because it's the exact same time. So she probably, clicked over from her call with Sergeant Link to the call with Carrie.
That's weird that 13 seconds.
I know. What do you say? Like, allegedly, this is when that call there to Sergeant Link is allegedly when Jen called and said, I remember something. Can you come back to the house? That happened in 13 seconds.
Weird. Oh, so maybe voicemail. Maybe she got his voicemail. Maybe that's why. Okay.
Okay, so at 9 o'clock, Jennifer McCabe calls Sergeant Link and asks him to return to 34 Fairview. She claims to have remembered something Karen said in the car. That's the previous call. It says here. At approximately 9 a.m., I was contacted at the police station by Jennifer McCabe. She asked if it was possible to come back to 34 Fairview Road and speak with her. Lieutenant Gallagher and I both left immediately and arrived back at 34 Fairview within a few moments. McCabe told us that she recalled something that she was not sure if we were even aware of. She said that when Reed was driving around with her and Roberts, which is Carrie, looking for the victim, she said something to the effect of, "I hope I didn't kill him." McCabe told us that she made these statements again at the scene when the victim was discovered. She thought that Reed may have made these statements in front of a police officer, but she was not sure. Now, if you guys remember, Tracy just read through the original reports. Was there any mention of that in the original reports? Of what Karen said while on the
I
scene?
did not see that.
This is the first time that it's mentioned anywhere that Karen said that she believed she hit him. And that came when they had all been in the house. I don't know what they were doing. I'm not accusing them of anything. They had all been in the house. They had done their interviews. Law enforcement had left. Jim McCabe calls Officer Link and says, "Oh, by the way, I had this." Then we hear this start to pop into reports. And this is where it originates from, is that 9 a.m. call to Link. Are you going to the wait? Like when it's silent, I don't know what's happening. Okay, 9:08. Karen's blood. Wait, what am I doing? Karen's blood is taken while at the hospital. At 9:08, her blood alcohol is estimated to have been between 0.07 and 0.08 at that time. Girlfriend is drunk. Like, I'm sorry, her blood alcohol content is high because that is the next day.
And well, she didn't sleep very long, it doesn't seem either. So what she said, 1 a.m. to 5, not 4 something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it hadn't really
No.
gone away yet. Do you want me to read a little while you get water or something, Deets?
Yeah, you guys go ahead.
Okay.
Go.
I can hear your voice. All right, you can go to the next one, Jenny. All right, 9:30 to 10:55 a.m. Jennifer's phone records. 9:30. JM calls Carrie. She answered, and it's 2 seconds. 9:33. Carrie calls her. 1 minute 44 seconds. 9:37. Carrie calls JM. Answered. 1 minute 27 seconds. 10:40. Carrie calls Jen. Answered. 15 minutes 4 seconds. 10:55, Trooper Proctor calls JM, answered. This is 1 minute and 18 seconds. And this came from the affidavit of Richard Green. Next. Jennifer McCabe's phone records show that 11:16, she leaves 34 Fairview. 11:22, she arrives at her own residence. 11:30, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant B, that's just what we're going to call him because his name is hard, interview her at her residence. And then at 12:15, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant B interview Matt McCabe. Okay, I don't know if people want to hear what she said in that interview versus what she had already told police outside of the house.
Now, this is state police, right? So the previous interview was with the first on the scene cops as well as Sergeant Link. This now is the state police.
And this is Jennifer, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let me just search really quickly here because I feel like a lot of the times what the hell this woman is saying is just an issue. So this is Jennifer McCabe. Where's her statement? Jennifer. Memorandum to quash. Motion to subpoena. Motion to quash. What the hell? Huh.
So I don't think that her statement, like, okay, so we had Lucky's interview. We don't have that with any of the other witnesses. I think this one is found affects the probable cause affidavit. We hear parts of her interview.
Parts, yeah. Not all of it. I mean, we know she deletes screenshots and messages. Okay.
Well,
All right. I was wondering.
I'm
though.
working on it. Her specifically, her different statements right now, and the
Right.
inconsistencies that we can do next time if you want. We'll have all the detail and reference.
What I do have is part of this is the Commonwealth's statement of case, and they have a lot of what she said in here. So, just very quickly, as Miss McCabe was arriving at her vehicle, she received a text message from O'Keefe asking where to at 12:14 a.m. Miss McCabe replied with the address of 34 Fairview Road. At 12:18, you want me to share it, Jenny, or just no?
Yeah, you can share, or I can share. It doesn't matter. Do you want to do?
I have it up. So
Okay.
there you go. At 12:18 a.m., Mr. O'Keefe called Miss McCabe to ask more specifically where the house was located on Fairview. While inside the residence, following her arrival there, Miss McCabe observed a black SUV consistent with Miss Reed's vehicle. A 2021 black Lexus SUV arrives in front of the residence from her vantage point at the front door of the home. So she's at the front door, not the side door. Miss McCabe texted Mr. O'Keefe at 12:31 a.m. stating hello, and again at 12:40 saying pull up behind me, referencing her vehicle's parking spot within the driveway to the home located on the right side of the property. If looking at the residence from the street, Miss McCabe then observed the black SUV move from its initial place where it had stopped on the street near the driveway and proceed to the left side of the property, where Mr. O'Keefe's body was subsequently discovered later in the morning. At 12:45, Miss McCabe texted Mr. O'Keefe again, hello, and then observed the black SUV drive away from the home. So just so that we're all together here, as she was arriving at her vehicle, she receives a text message from the bar, leaving the Waterfall bar, right? She's getting into her car, and she gets a text from O'Keefe saying where to. This is at 12:14. She gives him that information, and then at 12:18, he called her to ask more specifically, where exactly is the house located on Fairview? She gets to the residence and goes inside. She sees Karen and him pull up. So she's looking out the door. She's standing out there looking. This
She's not
matches
the
what
only
she
one,
said,
right?
right, about
Not
the
the only one to
15 minutes.
testify. Yeah.
So you're watching for 15 minutes until you see that car pull away. You're there. This is the Commonwealth's statement of the case facts. This is what they believe
So
to make their case.
Yeah, well, just at 11:30, a couple hours later, she's telling them that she observed the large black SUV on the street while outside of the house and went to the front door. Right?
Yeah.
The black SUV did not pull into the driveway, but parked on the street by the entrance to the driveway. Then it says she observed the black SUV. Wait, hold on. She observed the black SUV parked out front and texted John, hello, pull up behind me. Right. So in the interview that she did with Trooper Prince, which was February 1st, she said while she was outside of the house, someone said there was a car outside. Jen looked out the front door of the house and saw the car. It's not a black SUV anymore. It's a car.
Now it's a car.
She assumed it was John and Karen. She said she did not notice what kind of car it was. She noticed that the vehicle was facing in the opposite direction of how it would have been if they had followed the directions she provided earlier. Jen says she is not good at identifying cars and was not able to provide a description of the car.
Girl, if you don't get your ass.
She's already stated it's an SUV and 3 other interviews, but now it's a car that she doesn't know.
Right.
Yeah, and then
Doesn't know. She just doesn't know.
yeah, and in these other statements, she's saying that she, Jennifer, observed the vehicle travel along the road towards the left side of the property in the area of where John was discovered in the morning. And then in February, she says she looked out the window a little while later and noticed, hold on, I'm sorry, noticed that the car was further away from the house and closer to the neighbor.
Mhm.
Right. And then, hold on, where's the,
Exactly,
the
Clara.
next
That right
time,
there is enough for any half-assed defense lawyer to create doubt. I would hope.
right. So when Jennifer sent the last text to John, she observed the black SUV drive away and assumed John and Karen went home. This
Mhm.
was the second interview with Proctor on the first day. And then February 1st, which is 2 days.
2 days later. Yeah.
She says the next time she looked out the window, the car was gone. She didn't think anything of it and thought they decided not to come in. And for somebody who didn't think anything of it, she called the shit out of him.
Right? She was
Yep.
calling, she was texting, she
Yeah.
was searching things out. Like, girl, she got a lot.
She was doing all the things. And yes, Ashley, does anyone else think a retired FBI agent thinks this is all thinks all this are conspiracy theories and attacks anybody not agreeing with her? That's a huge problem that an FBI agent thinks KR is guilty. And
Mhm.
if KR is guilty, all of this is just, one
Yeah.
screw up, one wrong thing after the next. It's really showing the weakness in the Canton Police Department. It's showing a lot of weakness in the court system because
The DA's office.
if
Yeah.
you put all of this together, it's too much. You upgraded her charges as well to murder.
Yeah.
Based
and,
on what evidence?
and as we said, this comes not just from the defense's documents, it comes from the Commonwealth's documents as well. That interview that Jenny just read, that's from the Commonwealth. A lot of what is in my timeline I took from the Commonwealth because it's important to know that, to try to be unbiased or fair, and a lot of it comes from the Commonwealth. So it's in their own documents. It's in the initial interview, the original interviews, the altered reports, all those things,
Yeah.
but it's theirs.
And this
speaking
right
to-
here is really rude too for them to even say that here, right? Miss
But
McCabe stated just prior to 34 Fairview, there is a cluster of trees, and immediately the defendant stated she saw the victim. This statement initially confused McCabe and Roberts as they were unable to see his body lying in the snow. There's a cluster of trees that you can't see through in Canton in the middle of winter.
Well,
This
hold
is
on. She
where
says
it
there's a
came-
cluster. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, this is where that narrative comes in that Karen spotted them before Carrie and Jen, and that Carrie and Jen did not see them until they got up closer past the trees.
My gosh. I mean,
Well,
unless they're like evergreen or pines that are sitting at the neighbors right in front as you're coming up the road, I could see why maybe you would not have seen him because you can't see around a tree. But it's just unbelievable to me that that was even included in there as though she was setting it up, But then it says that cluster of trees. So let's just we have to go slow on this one because it's infuriating. Miss McCabe stated that just prior to 34 Fairview, there is a cluster of trees, and immediately the defendant stated she saw the victim. This confused McCabe and Roberts as they were unable to see O'Keefe's body in the snow. McCabe stated the defendant screamed to open the door and ran directly near that, words matter, cluster of trees. So are the cluster of trees before 34 Fairview? Is she talking about the mulch area?
Yep, she is.
That's now a cluster of trees? That is not a cluster of trees. That is, what is that? That is
There's
really
a hedgerow, like a line of trees that from dividing the properties in half.
let's look here.
I have a
again.
question. Wasn't there also a cluster of trees involved in Jennifer McCabe's directions to John that night? If they had come in the other way, there's another cluster over there that she used as a
Yes.
landmark.
Let me show you this
Yeah.
picture. This is from that angle. So maybe this will be helpful to share this one. Is this what they're talking about? This can't be what they're talking about. Maybe it is. Me.
Sassy said that's not a cluster. That's that's landscape.
Tree or something. Okay. Here.
There's
Maybe
the
this is
row
what
of
they
trees.
mean. This here? Perhaps?
Yeah, those row of trees, like right there to the left of your screen.
These?
If you come back in from the other side, it's we call it a hedgerow. Obviously, they're not hedges, but it's
Okay.
just a row of
Fair.
trees dividing the two properties.
That,
But look
yeah.
at how, I mean, they could have seen him around that. It's not like that's obstructing any views.
No, absolutely not. I am going to Google Earth again. And this is in the summertime. Like, we're in the summer, and I want to see this from this view here.
While you're doing that, I wanted to speak to what Ashley's comment was too, just a little bit.
Sure.
When the DA's office and the state police are reaching out to a Twitter personality to push their narrative, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's someone who's supposed to be unbiased.
Has that been confirmed?
The documents were there, or the emails.
Oh.
Okay. So if they're coming from this area here, this is summertime. This is not, then, okay, these trees would prevent you. You see these trees that aren't grown back yet? These guys are. I wonder if they can give us an exact date on these. That's annoying. I'd love to have a date.
That was 4/22.
Where do you see
So
that?
April it was just 3 months later, less than 3 months, I think, or about 3 months.
This Google Earth is?
The Street View. We were I was looking at it
We
with
were on it
Deeds.
yesterday, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So this is April. I wish we could get. Can you get anything at all in the winter, like a Google Street View?
Not at Street View. It'll take you back to the current Street View.
Because we were trying to
every
line
time.
up the crime scene photo to get like the placement, the angle that they took it from, and we couldn't do that. But yeah, we couldn't find a winner one either.
That's so annoying. I want to see it so bad. There's
Were
no.
we able to see in any of the crime scene photos? Were we able to see what the?
You can see it in that one. You can see the hedgerow behind them. Yeah.
Where?
And I sent them to you individually.
Other
Jenny.
one? Let me see. This one? No, I can't see it on that one at all. Maybe, yeah, let's see what Jenny has, because maybe it's different than what I'm looking at.
I'm pretty sure I did.
In here?
God, everything's so more. What did they take these with like a camera from the 80s?
It's a Polaroid.
What in the hell is this? Oh my gosh, there's a new icon in the chat there, Sassy.
Okay, here, let me send you this one. It shows the.
There's a bunch of people with that icon.
Oh,
I don't know if you've seen it.
I have not. No.
Yeah, I just looked. I was like, "Whoa, what's going on?"
It's not a winter picture, but it really shows that tree line.
Yeah, well, we need a winter because
I don't have that.
specifically because we don't know. I mean, well, those do look like trees that would be green, but I don't know. I don't buy it. I feel like that's even more for them to try to push her towards, and it's wrong.
So, can you share your Google Earth again where you were? I want to see something really quick, if you don't mind.
Nope, I do not.
I could pull it up, but you were there, so
Yeah. I'll go right back there again. No problem.
shaking like a Polaroid picture.
Ooh.
Every time I hear Polaroid, that's where I go. Outcast.
All right. Well, let me move away from their house and go down this road a little. Go down that road. Go.
Yeah, generally, Jenny, they're terrible. Absolutely terrible. But they're coming from a police report also, so they're copied over copied. I
Yeah.
guess. Hopefully, that's why they look so bad.
Yeah.
So this is the other house. Can you see?
Oh, hold
Oh.
on.
Sorry. Here
No,
you go.
okay.
This is next door, right? This is 36, I'd assume, or whatever. I don't know. 32, rather. Because going this way. So they have a fence. Here's the trees.
Mhm.
Here is the fire hydrant. Here's the flagpole. See the flagpole right there?
Mhm.
So
So-
if he was 12 feet off the
You
road,
could clearly see him. The trees would not block you at all.
not while you're pulling up, no. So if you're driving, here you go. Because, can we put this in more perspective? Dietz, who is driving by the house and saw the red taillight in the snow?
Berkowitz.
Well,
Chief Berkowitz.
does
Saw
everybody
that.
know that in the chat? You guys know that the chief was driving by this house, just
4 days later.
driving by 4
just
days later.
randomly.
You know, driving by, there he was. And over in the snow on this side, okay,
Over
here's
by the
him
flagpole
driving.
is where it's photographed, by the way.
Over here, he finds the red taillight piece.
Sure does.
Now, police live in the house. Nobody found
Wait.
it. And
Have
in
they
the
picked up her
searches,
car yet?
Yeah, they had picked up her car that day.
Oh.
Oh, you're being
The joke.
facetious.
4 days later, yes. Yes.
4 days later, he saw it from his vehicle as
From
he
his
was
car.
driving by. So he just happens, it says that the night before it rained and melted a lot of the snow, and he was able to see that red shiny piece of taillight from his vehicle as he drove past. He
But
called Canton and collected it as evidence.
all white snow. Here you go. It's all white. You don't see a 6'2", 200-pound man in all dark clothing laying on a white bed of snow between here and there. No. But the same drive, as you're driving by, you can see up here a piece of red tail light.
Well, I just think like in any other scenario, where would that be a nefarious thing that she spotted him first? But here it's
Sure.
made to believe that it's something nefarious because she was, searching for her boyfriend and she was the one who spotted him first and they didn't see it. It's somehow nefarious.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I think it's interesting too, this chief of police doing this, right? Because her car was towed to his precinct. Is that correct?
Correct.
Isn't that weird that her
chain
car
of
was towed to
custody.
his precinct,
Yeah.
but
chain
the
of
state
custody
police
is
had taken
a
it?
little.
But go ahead.
Yeah, the chain of custody is they have an argument, a good argument
Mm-hmm.
for chain of custody here. So
Definitely they do.
that's just absolutely
the
ridiculous that
oddest.
he found it.
It's the
Is-
oddest.
Oh, you're asking if that's a sign? There's a post behind the fire hydrant, and then there's the electrical box that's on the other side, which you can see is damaged in this picture because that's what Nicole was saying. It's been damaged for quite some
This
time.
is the electrical box, and
Mhm.
it's damaged. Yeah. See?
I don't know, girls.
Nothing makes sense in this case. Nothing.
No, I just
And that
that
was
just,
like one of
to
those
me-
old fence things. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Marker or property line
Yeah.
survey
could-
marker.
Yep.
Or dig here, don't dig here.
Yeah. Maybe.
Don't dig here.
It's so wild. This whole case is just bizarre. It's just bizarre. There's a whole look at everything. You come out here, and your friend who was coming there and sat outside for 15 minutes is no longer there, but you saw the car door open, but then you don't see him anymore, and he doesn't answer your phone calls anymore as you're frantically calling and texting him, and he's laying right here, but nobody even turns their head to look that way at all. Nobody does anything. He's not there, right? And then the next day he's found there, and the police who live inside here, they don't come out there. They don't come out to see if they can help in any way. And there's a dead Boston police officer on your lawn, or a dying one, but nobody rushes outside like in their pajamas to say, oh my God, what happened? Nobody does
And
that.
not even just a officer. It's an
Nope.
officer who was visiting you
Hey,
that you know.
yeah. Who was coming to your house? Like to hang at your house.
Yeah, one testimony talked about like how he looked up to Brian Albert. So they had, which is weird. If there's a testimony that says he looked up to Brian Albert, but then there's other testimony that Brian says I didn't know it. I don't know. Maybe he just looked up to him because of his achievements or something.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense actually. Yeah.
What'd you say?
Yeah. So you can find them in the snow.
The flag.
Yeah, the flag. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
Because if you got to get to it for a fire or something, yeah, that does make sense. Hey, tragedy.
TPE.
Oh, child,
yeah,
it's crazy. I don't know. Sheesh. It's so crazy.
It is, and you could go for hours and hours and hours on multiple different little aspects of this. It's
Yeah, little side things.
Really, yeah. And that's what, even when we're privately discussing it, it could be one itty bitty tiny piece, and it takes hours. It's annoying because you just want to be like, aha, we've solved it.
I just think, for me personally, we entertain a lot, and some of them have been, after parties in very similar situations like this. I can't think of an instance where, even if I don't know the person and they're, supposed to be stopping by my home, and my sister-in-law or my friend saying, yeah, they've been outside for like 15 minutes, but no one's coming in. One of us would go out and be like, yo, dude, you're welcome here. Just thinking maybe they think they're not welcome, or making sure everything's okay. I just find it very odd that there was at least 3 people that we know of knew that they were out there for 15 minutes and didn't go look or investigate.
I mean,
Nicole.
Yeah, Nicole, go ahead. You were going to answer, Nicole. That's fine. I saw
I'm sorry.
I saw it as well. Yeah.
Yeah, she said no ring cams on the house, and that I know that there was. I think it was said he thinks he got a ring camera for Christmas the year before or right before and hadn't put it up. I know that the defense has tried to compel whatever footage was there.
The neighbor had a ring cam. It just didn't record that.
Yeah, conveniently. That he was.
Isn't he also a cop?
He is
He
also
was
retired officer, yes.
Okay, so there's a retired officer across the street who does have a ring cam that looks directly at that area. When they go to get his ring cam, the ring cam works. He just didn't have anything for that time period. Nobody finds that weird.
No events were registered during that time period is how they worded it.
Gosh, I can't. And then the dog is also gone.
You would get into weird camera footage things. The footage of Karen, after she left 34 Fairview and was headed back to John's, that footage that it's just not there, guys. So you would be able to see her tail light. That's not there. So again, it doesn't mean it was done intentionally, because we were talking about Gray with Carly's case. He had found out that it was a blip all the way down the road, right? It wasn't somebody trying to hide it. But that's just strange that it was exactly during the period of time that she would have been driving by.
Mhm.
You have to consider that.
That's for sure.
Mm-mm-mm. It's too much for me.
Yeah. And I am the most anti conspiracy theory person on
Lord
the
knows
planet,
you are.
probably.
Golly.
But this is a
It's
lot. It's too much to ignore or rationalize.
The only thing I can come, like the only conclusion I can come to, because I just can't get behind everybody,
mhm.
being involved in setting someone up. I just can't. Maybe it is, maybe it's not, but I can't get behind that. The only conclusion I can come to is that a couple people were doing things to conceal stuff and everybody else just kind of fell in line with it to make their stuff
Mhm.
match the others, maybe. I don't know. But all I know from these facts is there's plenty here for reasonable doubt.
And
Absolutely. Yeah.
it doesn't have to be that all of these people are in on something or even know.
Right.
It could, like
No.
Steph is saying, like, or like they said, just be instinct, right?
Mhm.
I believe wholeheartedly at this point in time, he went to the house. They were drunk. Something happened. She already left. Those people in the house, they're married. The females are sisters. You're never going to tell on your sister, honey. You're going to call your sister and say, "Where are we hiding this body?" And that's the end of that. So the sisters, they're out of it because they're never going to tell. And then you have cops. They ain't going to tell. And Matt probably don't know what to do at this point. I'm not saying all those other people who were in and out of the house know a thing. I don't think that they do. But it could easily, if you fight an MMA fighter, maybe he walked in and was disrespectful. Maybe he, was so damn drunk he peed on their floor or something. Who knows? We don't know what could have happened, but the fact remains. She's calling him, texting him, and I mean Jennifer, over and over. She's at
Over
the
and
window.
over.
Matt's at the window. Then her stuff is deleted. Then they leave and nobody sees the body. So, in order for that to be true,
Mhm.
she had to have killed him accidentally or on purpose, taken the body with her, and then brought it back and dropped it off. You can't tell me all these people, the snowplow driver, the McCabe's, the teenagers or the young adults, whatever, nobody, the other man who's in the house, who's works for the FBI or the government or whatever,
Mhm.
nobody sees this man. And
Yeah, he left at 1:30. That's right. Taking stuff.
also, Lucky, the snowplow man, said that there were cars on the road. There were cars on the road. They questioned him like 5 times. So there were cars on the road? Yes, there were cars on the road. There were cars driving. There were cars driving on the road. People always drive in these storms. They don't give a shit. They've got to do what they got to do. It's a weekend night. They don't care. They're going. So there are other people who drove by and there's not a lot of snow. It's light snow. Nobody sees this body laying on. There's not any possible way that a big ass man
Holy
like that
pancakes!
being on the road.
Holy pancakes.
Holy damn pancakes, man! I refuse
Lucky's
it.
right. Lucky is
so
right. Holy pancakes. I can't make it make sense in my head
I
either.
can't either, and I'm trying to.
And
I really am.
I'm hoping there's more evidence that comes out.
Yeah.
I know Jenny had told me someone had mentioned about Richard Green not being properly credentialed. So we spent time looking up his credentials yesterday. He's the guy who pulled the Celebrite data and
Mhm.
Axiom. I can never remember the other one, Jenny, but he pulled that data. He's been CCE for 15 years at the company he's at and has been an expert witness in numerous cases.
Yeah,
So
and
I just feel like he's very qualified, and maybe I'm interested in hearing if the prosecution comes up with a different expert, but I don't know. There's just a lot here that 1 and 1 is not equaling 2 on all of this.
Yeah, Nicole, I've seen so many, too many drinks and you're joking or messing off or whatever, and it can turn serious in a second if you're drunk. You just take something the wrong way, especially if you're tough guys. And they're known to be quote unquote tough guys. If you don't, that's like a Bostonian word for the guys who are like, what are you looking at? Like, I'm a tough guy. He's MMA, he's on TV, he's a Canton officer, he's a tough guy. So anything could have happened. John may have just violated in the wrong way. And I
Okay,
don't
but
think the Colin thing from 2 years ago was the escalator or whatever. I don't think that lit something. He could have run into Colin, and maybe Colin's like, oh, yeah, this fucking asshole. You never know what could have possibly happened. He could have been in that house for hours, for all we know. For the lack of blood in the snow, that lack of blood doesn't make sense.
But on the flip side, to be fair, we also have the
Mhm.
statements from others, so we don't know how true they are. We don't know how much
Right.
any of these are true. They're all eyewitness testimony. Those parts are. But we do have the statement that Karen Reed said that she didn't remember much last night. She thought she didn't remember going to the McCabe's or the Albert's house. She
Sure.
thought she had left him at the Waterfall Bar and Grill. So you're also dealing with people who were heavily intoxicated. So
For
that's
sure.
why I think it's going to come down to evidence.
And I just pray that there is enough evidence to solve this one way or another, because the evidence
Right.
against her is trash. So, but the defense doesn't have to build a case. They just have
No.
to place reasonable doubt, which is great. But that really bothers me for John, because you're
Well-
going after Karen, and if she's the wrong one, you missed
Who
all
did
of
it?
this opportunity
Well,
to build the case against the people who may have done it.
their defense though is that there is a different perpetrator, so there is a burden.
Well, there is
Yeah.
well, is the burden on the defense to prove that there's a
If they
perpetrator?
If that's
if
that's
they've
the route
truly
they
chosen
go.
that, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, they need to
Well,
start
then that's
narrowing it down.
interesting.
because-
Did the dog find him in the snow and possibly try to drag him? Sure. That could have happened too. That, he got hit by her. And but if the dog dragged him, how did he get bruises on his ribs and a slash in the back of his head? I don't know.
It's
All
a
right,
lot.
let's slam through this timeline a little more. I think we can
Yeah,
get
and I'll be
through it.
right back. I'm going to run downstairs. I'll be right back.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so we did her blood alcohol content.
Oh, you did already. I was going to
Next
say
slide.
too, how are they estimating 0.13 to 0.29?
I don't know
that
how
she
they
would
got
have been
that
at midnight?
estimation.
The amount of time, the amount of space between 0.13 and 0.29 is gigantic.
Yeah.
That's it. I mean, that's just somebody saying probably this and this. That's what it sounds like. That's not scientific in any way.
Yeah. That's interesting. Okay, so from 9:30 to 10:55, Jen at 9:30:08, she calls Carrie. It's answered for 2 seconds. At 9:33:05, Carrie calls Jen back. It's answered. They speak for 1 minute and 44 seconds. At 9:37, Carrie calls Jen again. It's answered. They speak for 1 minute and 27 seconds. At 10:50, Carrie calls Jen back. It's answered. They speak for 15 minutes and 4 seconds. At 10:55:03, Trooper Proctor calls Jen McCabe. It's answered, and they speak for 1 minute and 18 seconds, which would have been she would have gotten off her call with Carrie to take Proctor's call. Next, ma'am. At 11:16, Jen McCabe leaves 34 Fairview. So she got that call from Proctor, and what it is setting up the interviews with Proctor. He hadn't given the interviews yet. They had done Officer Link interviews at 34 Fairview, but now they're going to go over to the McCabe residence so that Proctor can interview them there. At 1:22:55, Jen arrives at her residence. At 11:30, Trooper Proctor and Sergeant B interview Jen at her residence. And then at 12:15, they interview Matt McCabe. I put a little asterisk in there because there's something in between, but I wanted to put those things all together. You can go to the next one, love. So at 11:30, this is in between Jen's interview with Proctor and Matt's interview with Proctor. Brian Albert calls Jen. It's answered, and they speak for 1 minute and 31 seconds. At 12:20, Jen calls Brian Albert again, and it's answered. They speak for 7 minutes and 53 seconds. At 12:37, Carrie calls Jen. It's a missed call. At 12:37:43, Jen calls Carrie back. It's answered. They speak for 6 minutes and 28 seconds. At 12:49:13, Trooper Proctor calls Jen. Again, it's answered. They speak for 1 minute and 9 seconds. At 12:53:23, Jen deletes the screenshot that she took of Brian's contact info. So that screenshot that she took when they first found John, she deletes it at this time. At 1:04:05, these still say AM, but they should be PM by now. That's my fault. Anyway, at 1:04 PM, Jen calls Ashley Bellamong. It's answered. They speak for 12 minutes and 43 seconds. At 1:08, now we're on the PMs. 1:08 PM, Julie Albert calls Jen. It's missed. At 1:16:28, Brian calls Jen. It's answered. They speak for 4 minutes and 37 seconds. At 1:24, Jen calls Trooper Proctor. It's answered. They speak for 1 minute and 42 seconds. At 1:26, Ashley Bellamong calls Jen. It's rejected. At 1:31, Tom B calls Jen. It's answered. They speak for 3 minutes and 14 seconds. At 1:34:58, Jen calls Peggy. It's answered. They speak for 7 minutes and 18 seconds. And at 1:46:48, Jen calls Brian, and it's answered. They speak for 6 minutes and 6 seconds. Next. I know this is just like a lot of data stuff.
So much.
I know, because there's just so much on her phone.
Yeah, and the important thing is when you start getting into like where people's stories start crossing and events start crossing, this is insane. This is amazing.
I've only picked out like a few parts of it and connected a few parts, but when you sit down and you look at what everybody else was doing and line it up with these phone calls, you can start to see a pattern. I'm not going to throw that out there just yet because I know you're working on something too. I want to get that all together before we throw those things out there, but
definitely.
At 1:59:47, Julie calls Jen again. It's answered. They speak for 3 minutes and 21 seconds. At 2:16, Jen misses a video call from Kelly M. At 2:22:02, Jen calls Carrie R. Now this is a little important here. So at 2:22, she calls Carrie. It's answered. They speak for 11 minutes and 22 seconds. At 2:36, Brian calls Jen. It's answered. They speak for 4 minutes and 35 seconds. At 2:53, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered. 5 seconds. 2:56, Nicole calls Jen back. It's answered. They speak for 22 minutes and 58 seconds. At 3 o'clock, she's on that phone call with Nicole, and so she misses the call from Karina. Karina is the one of the women that was at the bar the night before with that. It's like Karina K. She's got that long Greek last name. Next slide. At 3:30 or 3:43, Jen calls Carrie. It's answered for 5 seconds. At 3:44, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered. They speak for 13 minutes and 41 seconds. At 3:57, Carrie calls Jen back. It's answered for 34 minutes and 37 seconds. At 4:12, Karen's Lexus is towed from her parents' house. She is interviewed by Trooper Proctor. Her phone is also taken during this interview. Now, this is all happening at 4:12 because we've later found out in this case that's the time in which it happened for the better part of a year. The prosecution alleged that it happened at 5:30, that her car was picked up at 5:30. We knew once we got the video footage that it actually happened at 4:12. Back to Miss Talks a Lot. So, at 4:59, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered. They speak for 9 minutes and 1 second.
Dude,
5:07.
she just
It's
could not
just
stop.
nonstop. Like this girl is on her phone. I'm curious as to like how often was it plugged in.
Yeah.
5:07, Jen misses a call from Ashley Bellamon. 5:08:31, Jen calls Matt. It's not answered. 5:09:07, Jen calls Matt again. It's answered for 3 seconds. 5:09:46, Jen calls Ashley Bellamon. It's answered. They speak for 5 minutes and 27 seconds. At 5:15, Brian calls Jen. It's answered. They speak for 1 minute and 27 seconds. At 5:16, Jen calls Karen. It's answered, and they speak for 8 minutes and 32 seconds.
And yes, Sassy, they had it an hour before they
Mhm.
documented it. And they took it, it was the state police who confiscated it. They took it to the local Canton Police Department, right? And then took it
Yeah,
to state.
and there was closer state police places they could have took it, but they took it to Canton. Is this the next one, or did? It's hard to tell if there's. Okay.
It is hard to tell.
I'm sorry.
They start looking just alike.
Yeah, at 4:25, Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeCiccio. How do you say that? DeCiccio.
I would say DeCiccio. DeCiccio.
After all that conversation with Jen and Brian and Alden, at 4:25, these two troopers interview Carrie Roberts. At 5:27, 29, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered. They speak for 21 minutes and 24 seconds. And I think is that the last of the day? Oh no. At 5:27, the CERT team, along with Lieutenant Brian Tolley, conduct a second search of the scene at 34 Fairview. There is additional evidence was found. That was the shoe and pieces of the taillight. Red pieces of plastic that resemble a taillight. I shouldn't say they were pieces of a taillight, but red pieces of plastic that resemble a taillight and clear pieces of plastic that resemble a taillight are found at 5:27 p.m. in the second search, and at this time there was 6 to 8 inches of snow at that time. At 5:51, Jen calls Matt. It's answered. They speak for 56 seconds. At 5:52, Maureen calls Jen. They speak for 23 minutes and 21 seconds. At 6:16, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered for 5 seconds. At 6:16:22, Jen calls Nicole. It's answered. They speak for 6 minutes and 33 seconds. At 6:27, Carrie calls Jen. It's answered, and they speak for 8 minutes. That would have been after her interview. Oh, and this was just some extra stuff that I had sent Jenny, where it talks about Carrie observing the grass underneath the victim's back, but not covered in snow as the remainder of the area was. There's no more after that. It's just some random pictures I had sent you. So it kind of ends there after Carrie's interview and the second search of the property where they obtain the plastic pieces that resemble the taillights. And that is the last call that's in the current data that we have on Jen McCabe's call log.
And Sassy, the sisters, I think there's 4 weak sisters, right?
Mhm.
But these two are Nicole Albert, who lives at 34 Fairview at the house where he was found, with her husband, Brian Albert. And then her sister is Jennifer McCabe, who lives down the road from them.
Yeah, just a couple minutes away, actually.
Yeah.
The interesting thing is Jennifer McCabe has been up for 36 plus hours at this point that we're aware of. And it does not look, I think when I was going through it, I found a couple like 30, 40-minute windows of frame where she might have caught some cat naps, but for the most, because there's also her data of her moving around. And so when you add that in, there's just a very short period where she's not moving and she's not on the phone. So I'm like, this woman has got to be exhausted because she
Yeah,
was
it was.
also out drinking the night before, right?
Yeah, and it's absolutely crazy because when you're looking at the timeline from the point like everybody goes over to this house to have like a after party or hang out or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's also their son's birthday, so he has friends
Right.
over there, right?
Correct.
One of the girls at the party calls her brother Ryan to come and pick her up. He gets there. She says she thinks she's going to stay. She's going to spend the night, right? It is what? How long? 30 minutes after they leave that everybody starts to leave. They tell, I guess everybody needs to go home.
About
Why would
40,
you do that?
so yeah, 45 minutes. So she speaks with her
Okay.
brother, and then the next earliest record of someone leaving is at 1:30. Higgins leaves, and then they end up leaving at 1:47. So an hour after she spoke with her brother and told him she was going to stay the night, she ends up having somebody else take her home.
Yeah, it's real weird because I know somewhere because it's in Sleuthy's timeline. Somebody says that all the residents leave at 1 a.m.
Well, that's Nicole Albert and Brian
Mhm.
Albert initially stated that in the original report. They stated that they got back home at midnight and all of their guests left an hour later. But
And that's crazy.
yeah, it was actually an hour and 47 minutes later.
Yeah, that's what the phone data says, right? Yep.
Yeah, but it's still weird. Still weird that you invite everyone to an after party and then it's over, not even 2 hours later.
It's interesting too that like all this other detail that Jim McCabe has, they took 2 kids home when they left, and she didn't say anything about it that day, or like the day that it happened. That they took other kids home, which is giving her
well,
timeline.
they mentioned one in one of her reports. She mentions taking one of the friends home, Julie. She mentions Julie, and she does not mention the other girl, Sarah. And I know that I've seen, I think even Court TV did something on it about how the McCabe's drove by John O'Keefe's place, and they were kind of alleging that meant that they went to check and see if Karen was still there for something. I don't know, but they didn't actually go right past their house. They turned on the road before that, and it's kind of a dead end road. It'd be really hard to see over to John O'Keefe's place from there. I think that was just one of the locations that they were dropping someone off at. I don't think it had
Yeah,
any dignitaries.
I just think these inconsistencies are crazy. So when we're able to like have all like everything that we have together, I think it's going to be nuts.
Yeah.
Where'd Tracy go?
Any questions? I mean, this is just a timeline. I think there will be, that is a ton of witnesses, Angela. I agree. I think that this is just that, set time frame between the 28th and, well, most of it takes place on the 29th, but it's the bulk of it. And I just felt like it was important to get the factual timeline out of the way before you start pouring into the documents and stuff, because it can be very confusing for people because there is a lot happening. On the surface, it doesn't quite look like a lot's happening, but once you start digging in, there really is.
Yeah, I saw people go, "Oh, the timeline is just a bunch of phone calls." It's not. We're talking about Sleepy's timeline. It is not. There are a lot of phone calls in there, but if you are following the story in the documents and you're paying attention to the timeline, it's huge. It's absolutely huge.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here.
And I think that they, Brian Albert's lawyer says, there's not a good reason for them to obtain Brian's cell phone data and that it's a fishing expedition. But I think when you lay out the fact that they, had a reason to get Jim McCabe's data, and then you have the fact that John was found on Brian's property. He was supposed to have gone into the house at one point in that evening by every witness's, statement. He was supposed to have come in there. And then you have this interaction between Jen and Nicole and Brian. I think it gives them sufficient reason to obtain it.
Yeah, and Sassy was asking if there were time gaps in Jennifer's phone records, and there is like 2 hours between like 2:30 and 4:30, and maybe she got a nap or something.
That's about the only point. Well, not even that whole time because she's walking during
Right.
part of that time. But that
Yep.
would have been the biggest chunk where she would have gotten a little nap. And then Jenny finally took a look at Jim McCabe's heart rate yesterday.
Oh my God, y'all, her heart rate around finding him was, I was like, holy crap, that she's like losing weight during this period of time.
Right, she's burning calories.
It
But
was,
I mean, my heart, if I would have found a friend like that, my heart rate would probably be through the roof too.
yeah,
That's scary.
but it was like the timing of the, like if you see it, the timing of it's kind of odd as
Mhm.
opposed to when it was active. It was like, oh, it went up when they found him. Yes, when the
Mhm.
police got there,
Yes.
that's when it was freaking through the roof.
You just, as they get closer to the Albert's residence, you can just see her heart rate start to increase. And then, like Jenny said, as the law enforcement officers get there and they start doing the interviews, and it's like what, from that point on, her heart rate never goes back down to resting.
Mm-mm. No.
I mean, she's running around texting and calling and doing everything in the universe. So I guess that would never happen.
Yeah, it's kind of, I don't know, she very high strung, it
Hmm.
seems.
And nosy. She's very nosy.
And her memory is not consistent either.
No.
Well, we don't know if that's her memory or if it was law enforcement who changed
That's
it,
true.
or if it was,
I do wonder
well,
about
it'd have to
that.
be her or law enforcement. You know what I mean? Like, because we don't actually have her interview state or transcript. So,
Right, we have the summary.
yeah, I wonder if that'll come out in the trial, like the actual transcripts. And then there's also the transcripts from the grand jury. So,
Hmm.
this when her battery must have gone out.
Katie May said, well, those reports are proctored with a capital P.
They are that.
Allegedly.
Mm.
Any other heart rate spikes? I think there was during one of the interviews, it spiked up again like it did when the law enforcement was there, but I can't remember which one off the top of my head. But there is, yeah, another spike. And then, if I don't have this officially, but if I remember correctly, the state police took her phone 3 days later, so she had 3 days with her phone before they got it
Which
for the
is just
data.
crazy. Like, why wasn't everybody's everything confiscated? It's a Ted police officer. I don't.
Yeah, I mean, you get like the sloppy police work when it's just a citizen, right? Even
Mhm.
worse when it's someone who is, not wealthy, or somebody who like a prostitute or something like that. You see that all the time. It's extremely sloppy. A
Mhm.
Boston police officer
Right.
and his fellow officers, I don't understand it.
Is Jen the only one calling everyone? We don't know. We only have Jen's and John's phone records, and obviously he wasn't calling anyone. They have Karen Reed's phone records, but we're not privy to that data. So the only reason that we have this data is because the defense put it out in a motion to try to obtain Brian's phone records. Otherwise, we wouldn't even have this information yet.
Do we know if if the defense has Brian's phone records at all, or if they're just not turning them over?
Do you mean if the prosecution has it?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said
Yeah, they've
I'm sorry.
requested I don't know if they have them or not, because he has his own lawyer on that matter, so I'm not for sure if the prosecution even has them, and maybe they don't. Maybe the Commonwealth doesn't.
So why would he not have directly handed over? He's an officer. That's his friend. Why would he not just say, "Here's my phone"?
Yeah,
But people can do what they want. Free country. Kind of.
Yeah. He's fighting it. He's fighting it pretty hardcore. And I think that comes across in a certain way. I don't know why the deletes are only from a specific time period, and it's not everything. There's a few things that don't go deleted in that time period, so we know that it's not a glitch or something like that.
But she deleted the 911 call.
Right, the 911 call.
What?
Like,
why would you delete that? It's not like maybe she was just doing as much as she could at the time. You know what I mean? Like not paying attention to which call it was.
Well, I mean, then you've got the people who say, well, I delete every single thing in my phone every night. And it's like, what? I mean, I guess if your phone's really terrible.
I have a 1 terabyte phone, so I don't have to delete everything on my phone frequently.
No, I end up having to sit like 12 hours and hook my phone up to my computer to get stuff off of it. Because I never, don't.
So Brenda wants to know what we think happened.
Y'all want to give your opinions first?
I don't feel like I have enough information to really make a qualified statement on that, but I do think I have enough information to say that something is not on the up and up here. I don't know what angle it is. I don't know if someone else killed John. I don't know if it was accident. I don't know if Karen. I don't know. I don't feel like Karen did. I don't. But I don't really have a good what do you call it? I don't have a good theory at this moment. His arm definitely makes me think dog.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't say that for sure. I don't know what the other options were. Right? What are our other options?
Blunt force trauma.
And that's what they're saying.
That's true.
That's true.
That's true. No on that. I comfortably can say no, that's not blunt force trauma on his arm. They're punctures. I mean, you can see the punctures. So,
I would like to see his clothes. I think when that comes out in trial, seeing his clothes would really help, because he was wearing a long sleeve shirt that night. So it would really help to see what that looks like in the arm area, I guess.
That's true. Now, he didn't have like damage on his body other than the arm, right? He had
his arm. And so you guys see the outside of his arm frequently. I actually found another photo the other night that I sent you where it's on the inside of his forearm. That was one I had not seen before. And then there's his hands, and then the damage to his head. Oh, my earbuds are going out. The damage to his head, as well as they said there was a cut or a laceration on his eye.
Do we know if he's right or left-handed?
I don't know.
Because to me, like, if a dog's coming at me, that's exactly what my arm goes down like that, right? Because you're like,
Yeah.
no, stop.
Mhm.
But also, like, he did? I didn't notice it, but does he have like scrapes and stuff on his hands to break a fall? Does he have like?
They just look bruised in those
Bruised
photos
up.
that we have. Yeah.
And they are bruised up on the
I
top.
know.
On his
Yeah,
knuckles.
it was half of his hand. It was like the over to the out toward the outside of his hand. That that's a interesting one.
It's interesting. And then there are some, if you look a little closer at him lying on the table, there are some of his whole rib cage, like the side of his body is all bruised as well. Have
Is
y'all
it?
seen
Is
those?
it?
I have not seen those.
I haven't seen that.
Hold on.
As far as my theory, I'm kind of with Jenny. I don't have enough information. Like, we have a lot of information here. Yeah, don't get me wrong. But I still don't think it's just quite enough to have a strong theory on what took place. That being said, I do believe that Karen dropped off John at the house. I don't think she returned. I don't feel like she hit him. And I don't think he went anywhere but that residence. Other than that, I don't have a theory yet on as to what transpired.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me see here. Now, some of this. No, this is not Leviticus.
Tigress. We talked about the hydrant marker earlier. I don't know if you were in here. And the raccoon eyes, we don't know what that's from exactly, but it could be from traumatic brain injury. Absolutely.
There you go.
I don't think anybody's claiming that it's from him being beaten.
Yeah,
I'm sharing it, Jenny. Now, this could be Leviticus, right?
Well, no, because he wasn't dead.
This is at the hospital.
Correct. He wasn't dead.
Oh,
Could it be frostbite? No, they said that he. So if you look here,
could be
all
a
of this.
shadow. Some of it could be a shadow, but I do see the bruising you're pointing.
Oh yeah, I don't mean all down here, but
yeah,
up
there.
here,
Mm-hmm.
that is bruising for sure. You see some
Yeah.
here, you see some there, then you see all of this,
Yeah.
especially that one and this one. Those are disturbing. They're very, very, very disturbing. Then there are, somebody did this, which I thought was very interesting to look at. I don't know. I have to probably stop streaming and look at this. There you go, Jenny. It's up. These are German Shepherd bites.
See, I'm not familiar at all with dog bites.
Well, that's why somebody put these
Yeah.
together. These are all bites from a shepherd.
Okay, but what's on O'Keefe's arm is a lot.
Sure,
That's a lot.
it is. It's a lot. Now you can't see. I have to keep sharing and unsharing, sharing and unsharing. It's so annoying.
Oh,
Hold
wow,
on.
that was weird.
I don't know what the hell just happened.
Are you thinking it would be a...
It's
If you're thinking dog, you're just theorizing. Do
sure.
you think that it was like a long attack? Like how to get that many from one dog?
No, because dogs bite and let go and bite and let go. Like they're tearing at you.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they're doing. They're trying to rip. I mean, that's their point, is to like grab and rip and pull.
Yes,
And if
Chloe was
you-
known to be aggressive. That's right.
Yeah, if you grab and she lets go, you grab again. She lets go. Look at where they're placed. 1, 2. You see, like teeth? 1, 2, maybe in the middle there. If you get a better grip, like right here. Look at that. These are teeth. Just imagine the front grip of a canine.
I mean, I can see it. I just wonder why the medical examiner didn't come to that
Maybe she
conclusion.
didn't know about dogs in the house.
So Tracy, are the longer ones at the outside of each of those like
Mhm.
claw marks? Do you think? Or you think those are teeth too?
Those are teeth. Now,
You think it's all
she,
teeth?
she could have, because when you're trying to get a dog off you, it only has its paws to use. So it's using its paws as leverage as well. So sure, it could have been biting here and its paws up here, right? Like it's pushing back to pull you backwards. When my dogs get in their little scuffles, they will use my smaller dogs against the bigger dog, will use their paws to fight. They use them to push the other dog off and pull backwards, just like if they're tugging on a rope. Aries and Tommy, they get together and they go at it with a toy, and they
I have
both
a
use their front paws to pull.
I have a tiny little house dog, lap dog that thinks he's a cat, so I don't know all these things, but I agree with Leo. They have the same question that I have, those long ones that are up on his bicep. So
Here,
if if he's standing up, that's quite high for a dog.
I don't think he's standing up at
You
all.
think he's down on the ground by that point.
Yeah, he's trying to get the hell away. He's trying to pull his arm back away from the dog, from whatever it is that the dog is doing to him. Let me share the actual, so in the group there, in the
No, it
John
does.
Leaf
I'm with you,
group.
867. I don't think it looks like road rash either.
No. All right, here we go, Jenny.
Well,
Look at this.
it's interesting too that they called it abrasions when
Well,
in the
yeah.
police report it was lacerations. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. And this is trigger warning, guys. If you can't look at blood, look away. Okay? Because these are just the reality. They're dog bites. They're, different kinds of dog bites. These are
Oh my
dog bites to your
gosh.
hand, wounds. Listen. If you don't have dogs,
Is that you?
Oh my
One
god!
of your pictures?
no, that's not me. Yeah, I don't want to show John. That'll really freak out people. I'm sorry. This is road rash. So some people are like, well, could it be road rash? No, this is road rash.
Right.
Those are bites. That's road rash. It's very different. It's very, very, very different.
So I know initially the theory was that, there's been a couple theories floating around, right? Her car and the scratches coming from jagged pieces of the taillight doing that. I don't believe that because it spans too big of an area on his arm compared to the width of her or the length of her height of her taillight.
Sorry.
But then there was like a thing about the snowplow, and I don't think that a snowplow would make those types of marks either.
Snowplow.
I can't think of anything. I don't know if anyone else can come up with something besides a dog that they think that those marks could be attributed to.
Well, we have to think this is not it's not like a gravel truck. It's not a truck you're picking up dirt with. Snowplows have like a rubber bottom thing, like a scraper to carry up the snow. Okay, so we can easily look at these and you can see, because you could think snowplow maybe, but not really, because if you're looking, here you go, Jenny, if you can pull these up. See the plastic thing, the big rubber thing on the bottom of these? It's not, no. Oh my God. This is so annoying, sharing like this. Sorry.
Leo, they have not, the prosecution, the state, the Commonwealth has not really said what they believe that they are. They have, initially, their argument was that he could have possibly been attacked with the glass that was found around him. And then now it is he was hit with a car. But they have not like specifically attributed anything to his injuries.
So you can see on all of these, even like these, which looks like one of the older metal yucky, there's still, yeah, how the hell how does snowplow do this to you? No, I just can't. I can't. No.
Cape, I get that. That's kind of what I envision in my mind if I do think that it is a dog. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. You have family in law enforcement, and you see that in their training and stuff. And I did ask a couple family members, you know, like that are in law enforcement, what's the first thing you do if, you know, a dog's attacking or something? And that's what they all say. If you can't kick it off away, your arm will be a shield.
Here we
And
go.
don't forget, ring row right.
Ring row right. Holy
Don't you
pancakes.
ever forget that either. All right, I'm going to share
Ring row
this
right.
one here, Jenny. This may give people a good idea if they're not super familiar with these dogs, what they can do. Will. Miss Habit. He's a shepherd, or she. Oh, good Lord in heaven, you about to die, son. Watch the dog's movements. You see how he's
Oh wow,
pulling?
he is up there higher
Look at her
above on
feet.
the
You see
elbow
it?
than
Or
I
his.
thought.
She's going to use them. People are like, that's kind of high. No, that dog will hold on throughout all of it.
Gosh.
Not going to let go.
Seeing how high that is, that
Oh my
does
God.
not
And you can
sound-
see him yelling even through
Mhm.
that. Dang.
Even through that.
Oh,
Damn dog's in the fence.
God.
He doesn't care.
Carbide blades. Thank you, Rockabit.
That guy's crying.
See its paws? Look at the jaw. It'll let go just a bit and then pull back. Let go just a bit and pull back. Well, that might be a Belgian, yeah. I just put in German Shepherd's training.
He's still trying to get him.
He is like not letting that dude go. Oh my goodness.
No. Now he's down. Okay.
What's he doing down? Get over there.
Once he's down, let's see what the dog does. The dog's smart. It knows not to go for his face or anything
Yeah, it goes up higher on the arm.
because he's training. So, all right, this is a German Shepherd. This is Cole. Family drill protection. Okay. See what he does. Ooh. Watch him. I'm going to take that mug off of him.
Dang.
You're not going anywhere, buddy.
That poor same dude has to keep getting attacked, man.
They better be paying him well.
Only if I can get a good hold, though, yeah? There you go. Ooh.
Look at.
The shepherd.
Hold on.
And the dog's wagging the whole time. And they do. They go right
Happy.
to that elbow. They knew where to go. They know exactly what to do and where to go. And where to bite. See? He doesn't go after the guy. He knows where to go.
Oh, he knows he's training, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, he knows. Right up there. Like, they're not going to go for your knee. Well, the training one. So it wasn't a police dog, though.
Mm-mm.
But it was trained
She
to
was trained,
attack.
yeah.
You know, she
They-
was trained
they
to
mentioned
protect. So if
They
you're trained
do.
to protect, it's going to go where it remembers that it was taught to go.
That always kills me. I'm like, don't hurt the dog. Don't hurt the dog.
No, they're not gonna. It's like the dogs who do the pulls, the weight pulls, or they like the tug pulls. A lot of people who are bad to dogs, they train them on those pulls. But like, you know, my Frenchie, she loves the pull. She wants to have one. She can't. She would pull all day if she could. So was she though? Not sure. I think she just wasn't trained. No, didn't they say that she was trained? She
Yes,
wasn't trained
Brian
as a
talks
canine.
about it. Yeah, she was not a trained, she wasn't a trained canine dog for law enforcement, but Brian mentions it in his grand jury testimony. Again, that's only a little piece we have from the defense putting it in a motion, but that she was trained.
Was she trained to guard or to attack?
I don't, I
Let
don't
me
think it says. I'm not sure.
let me look really quick. Because those are two different things. One of my dogs is trained to just bark, and the other one is, you know, that's a
My
whole
dog would
different
sacrifice me
situation.
for a snack. Mine too, 8-6. Oh my gosh, she'd be like, "You got food? Forget about that lady over there."
Yeah, you're out of here. Let me see.
And plows have sleds they glide on, like rounded discs at the bottom as well. Mm. Interesting. Yes, the dog stuff is over.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah, no, Karen did not have any chains on her tires.
Nope.
You can see that if you guys look at the court TV ring camera footage of her backing out of John's property that night. You can see her tires clearly.
Okay, so this is interesting. I'm going to share one last thing before we, but this is really very interesting. Okay. You there, Jenny? Jenny, leave us. Okay, so
Yes.
they did this little thing, right? Claws, bite, claws. Okay. What was John O'Keefe wearing? Everybody.
Long sleeve shirt.
Long sleeve shirt. What color do we know?
Gray and
Gray.
black.
Okay.
Yep. Yeah. That's his clothes on the ground there.
That is not gray.
That's a lot of blood.
That is a lot.
So
And
was
do you
that from
see
like
how his clothes are just put on the
Tossed
floor
on the
like that?
ground.
That is not any way you handle any of this. That's all blood. Where is the blood in the snow? Why wasn't there a ton of blood in the snow? That is completely saturated.
Okay, is it possible that he was placed on the lawn before the snow truly begins and blood soaks into the ground before snow comes on top of it?
Sure. But if we're looking at him, if you're the officers on the scene, you're looking, and when you get there, Karen Reed's trying to do CPR. The fire department and EMS and all of them pick him up and put him on a stretcher. You see the blood. You can clearly, some way, somehow, you're seeing something, right?
Yeah.
If they pick him up and take him away and the other officers are standing there, you see at least some red, not 6 drops of red,
Yeah,
but you see
there's
some
gotta be
blood.
more than a few drops of
Right.
blood.
So why aren't you collecting all of that or taking photos of any of that? Where are maybe they have those photos somewhere, I don't know, that we haven't seen. I'm sure there's plenty that we just haven't seen. I don't know. But to me, If he was
Coldly,
left there all
slowly
night,
bleeding.
then there's a lot of blood under him. If he was just placed there 4 or 5 in the morning, maybe there's not. I don't know.
And there's a lot of things like this that have me doubting stuff that I think that if it goes to trial, the reasonable doubt is just unless they get some really good experts in there
Yeah.
explaining it away that there's the fact that his cell phone was still operational after he was found
Mhm.
when it was under him for allegedly 6 hours.
When
5.5,
did they end
6
up
hours.
searching the house, Deets? They never searched it,
They've
right?
never searched the house. They went
No.
in, the officer Lank went in and did the interview
the
with
interview.
Brian and
That's it.
Nicole, and that's the only time I believe that they went
Mhm.
into the home.
Right. Yep. And I think the lows were I know that night it was like in the teens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's blood, Leo. Yep. That is all blood on his clothing. And he was wearing gray.
Mm-hmm. Gray and black, yeah.
867, yes. You heard about a part of the floors being replaced that they had already replaced a couple of years prior in the basement.
Yeah, the basement floors were replaced, and they had been replaced within the last 4 years, allegedly.
Which,
Again, that comes from their testimony.
yeah. Was there blood not attached to his head? Because they say he fell back on the ground. His head would have been in a pool of blood. No, I would think so. I would think so. Right? Yeah, the floors are. Yeah.
Wasn't his t-shirt orange underneath? Let me go look. I don't believe so. But I have it here as to what he was wearing exactly.
I don't want to be too graphic. I know it bothers people. But his head wound is not small. It's not. Let me see here.
Yeah, I'm trying to find what he was wearing.
Trying to show it without I don't know. Let me see. Let me see here. Could someone? Okay, so this is interesting. Can someone who works in the ER answer this question about the photo of John's clothing just sitting on the floor in what appears to be the ER? Is this normal when someone's brought into an ER in a very bad state to cut off their clothing as quickly as possible, toss them on the floor to get them out of the way? Or does staff or someone take care of the clothes, such as place them in a plastic bag? Some may feel it's disrespectful to John. His clothing was left sitting on the floor, but my limited knowledge of emergency medicine makes me feel this is probably normal. Needless to say, it does leave this open for contamination. I just wonder if those clothes involving crimes are treated differently or if the medical staff ignores everything and just has to provide medical services. As a former ER nurse, no, we would not put anything that was on a patient we would put anything that was on a patient in paper bags and seal them. You do not just toss them on the ground like that. Joseph says, I was an EMT and trained in ER. Their job is to save the victim and remove any clothing in the way. They are not concerned with evidence, just saving a life.
Here is what the Commonwealth states that he
Oh,
was
yeah, that's
wearing
great.
in the video footage. Mr.
Right.
O'Keefe walked into the
It's
establishment wearing jeans, black Nike sneakers, a gray and dark gray long sleeve shirt, and a dark baseball hat with an American flag on the front.
And then there's the video.
which you can see on your screen.
Yep. Can you play that video, Jenny? You don't need to do the sound, but you can play it. Just so we can see them together. Completely happy. I just don't buy it.
They're a cute couple.
Yeah, the whole idea that they were
It really bothers me a lot that it's being
Not that
handled.
they weren't arguing; they were both drinking. They absolutely could have been
Sure.
arguing. It happens.
Yeah.
But to that point, that's a lot.
I mean, she had a very successful life, you know?
Mhm.
It's not like you're talking about, and anybody could kill anybody, sure. But to not even verify, like, is he dead? You know, you just kind of back into him maybe because you're drunk
Can you
and you
go back
leave.
and pause there, Jenny? I didn't want to interrupt. Go ahead, Tracy.
And you can use the words, the video, the volume if you want, Jenny, so we can hear it.
I just wanted to see, like, I think that a lot of people, when we see the snow piled up in the next shot that's coming up, I think that that's what a lot of people envisioned it like when he was found or
Yeah.
when he was allegedly hit. And that's just not the case. That video footage is taken later.
Okay.
When she woke early, John wasn't there. She went out searching and 6 a.m. found him lying unresponsive.
Wait. Oh, want to see that just for a second.
What happens next?
I left.
She drove home, fell asleep. When she woke early, John wasn't there. She went out searching and
Where's that? Is it just a picture of the road?
I think it's down the road. I'm not sure, honestly.
I don't recognize anything. Okay. Sorry, I just wanted to see if that we could see
Yeah.
something. Or, yeah, that's not it. Is it down here? No? There's a car. Okay.
6 a.m. found him lying unresponsive in the snow and bitter cold in front of the home where she dropped him.
His eyes were swollen shut. He had blood dripping out of his nose.
She blurted out her thoughts.
Okay. So this is after the fact,
Right.
after it's been snowing a bunch.
But you see those tracks where they go to?
Mm-hmm. And great, this again, this is
Mm-hmm.
from this kind of angle. This is taken. Is somebody standing at the road?
Mm-hmm. So it's either
It's like-
right in front of the flagpole, right to the right of
Yeah.
it, just to the right of it. It's just you can see where they were going.
As first responders arrived.
Did you say, I wonder if I hit him? Did I kill him?
I said, could I have hit him?
The Massachusetts State Police concluded Karen did hit John. Their version, Karen and John argued in the car. John got out, Karen backed into him, hit him, and drove away. Police say they discovered pieces of a broken.
So I looked to the sunrise was 7 a.m. that morning, so it was still
This is the
At
piece
twilight?
that Berkowitz found.
okay. This is well after.
Yeah, this is 4 days later. That's the piece Berkowitz found from his car.
Yeah, seeing this too, people are gonna think that was found right then
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know. Okay.
tail light at the scene. In court, a prosecutor read from a first responder's interview, quoting Karen.
Defendants then made several statements to her indicating, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him.
Karen was charged with second-degree murder. She pled not guilty.
I have an innocent client. Period.
Alan Jackson, Karen's high-profile attorney, believes John was set up that night.
John walked into an element of hostility in that house.
He has argued in court there were people in the house who had a troubled history with John.
John O'Keefe got out of a car, walked into the house, was sucker punched, fell, hurt himself, and then ultimately his body was moved.
Okay, I don't know.
See, I don't know that I believe.
Yeah, I'm with you, Jen. I can't necessarily get behind that because they don't. Can they prove that somehow? That that's what
They
happened,
can't. Maybe. I mean, not from what we have.
right?
Yeah, certainly not from the little bit that we have, which is a lot. And that blows my mind because I know we don't have nearly everything. Like you said, we only have what some of John's information from his
Mm-hmm.
Jennifer McCabe's phone information, and then a little bit of her. What was it? Live 360.
Yeah.
There were some times they could pinpoint, but we don't have.
And I struggle with the why for everyone, you know.
Yeah.
Why would, because if you're going to charge Karen with murder, you're alleging that he hit him on purpose, intentionally did it. I struggle with that, and I struggle with why anyone in the house would have wanted him murdered or dead. And then I know I was talking about that the other day, and Tracy was like, well,
Because it's a big deal, right? I mean,
well, you were saying, I think what you had said was that you didn't think that it was an intentional thing, like if they had gone, you know.
yeah, I don't think that anybody at all intentionally killed him, whether it's Karen or Brian or whoever. I don't think somebody set out to murder John O'Keefe. And I don't think whatever happened is even. It's. I could see motor vehicle, you know, a tragic accident. I can't see murder. I can't even see manslaughter. I can't. Now, if it can be proven that there was a fight in that house, but based on all of the evidence collected, I don't believe they'll ever be able to prove that. I think that would be maybe, you know, murder, but involuntary manslaughter. You know, they got in a fist fight, but covering it up, that's more charges, right? So I don't know. I don't think that anybody intended to. If it was the guys in the house, they got in a fight, it got out of control, the dog got involved, and he ended up, nobody wants to go down for that. You know, you're not going to go down for that. And if it was Karen, she may have backed into him, but it doesn't account for all of his injuries in any way. Doesn't account for the lack of blood in the snow or anything else.
Brockabit, he found that 4 days later, and they said that because I thought the same thing too, is like, that wouldn't be on top of the snow, but they said that it had rained the night before, which melted away a lot of the snow.
Yeah, the conspiracy is in the cover-up, not the killing. And the conspiracy, if you are interested now in this case, just go and look up, you know, police wrongdoing or police conspiracies or Boston police. And we have some wonderful officers, and we also have ones who have been known to cover stuff up. They just have, and you can't really deny that. But people say, well, but you don't have officers covering up murders. If you haven't heard of Whitey Bulger, go look him up and see who exactly was working with him, who allowed him to kill all of those people. He didn't have to do it himself. He had soldiers who did it for him, and he was tipped off when they were coming for him. That is 100% true story. The whole thing is true, and it happened. And the people, I mean, you had a guy from the FBI. He was working with him. You had cops on the payroll, and they knew exactly what he was doing. And everybody looked the other way. And they all had the secret. And people are like, well, you can't keep this secret if it's more than like one or two people. Whitey had a huge gang of people, plus a lot of police, plus FBI. I mean, everybody kept the secret until you couldn't keep the secret anymore.
Well, and Kate, what Kate just said always brings me back to just, you know, critical thinking. Like, what injuries are life threatening? And I agree. I'm like, none of these are life threatening. The exposure to the snow or to the cold is, and then that takes me back to the 2:27 a.m. search. And I can't get past that search.
Right. Her search as well. Yeah. And yeah, 16 million Boston paid to Sean Ellis. They absolutely set people up for murder. He had skull fractures. Yes, he did.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Whitey was an informant. And they let him get away with literal murder, literal poisoning of his own town. He started out as a good Robin Hood type, you know, small time little drug dealer. and ended up bringing in the shit that killed his own people in there. And you didn't want to piss him off because he'd kill you or he'd have you killed. And they knew about all of that. They knew about it. And you can't say, like, we can't even pretend to say, oh, well, they probably didn't know. No, they 100% knew. Like, period. They knew. And there's so many things, if you look up stuff like that, it's like, you know, and it gives Boston a bad name for sure. And there's other places like this. But
Well, I don't believe like, I know that that kind of lends to people saying all cops are bad. I don't believe all cops are bad. It's just like school teachers. We can have bad school teachers, just like, you know,
for
firefighters and
sure.
doctors. We have bad people in this world, and
Yeah.
they work in all different sorts of professions. It doesn't mean the whole group is bad.
For sure. I mean, there are some Boston cops who give their life for yours in a second, and they do everything by the book. And they're just good people who wanted to be cops to protect and serve. That's truly what they wanted. But sometimes when you end up in a unit or a department or on like the gang force, there are temptations there for really good money.
Yeah.
And you're dealing with really bad people. And, you know, sometimes that take home pay for all the stress and bullshit you're dealing with out there, you take a chance and you end up in a situation where shit, you probably shouldn't have taken that chance and now it's too late. And you see that just over and over. Every time those things happen, you're like, why would they have done that? And then you find out, well, their family was threatened, or they were threatened, or they were making a ton of money. And you just don't say no, and you don't think you're going to get caught because your boys are in on it with you and you're all doing the thing. And then something happens and you're screwed.
Well, and that's why I've been digging so much into the overtime scandal that Boston was going through at the time, and to see if O'Keefe's name is on any of the paperwork, or Brian's. It's not, but there are witnesses that are unnamed, and there are still people who were involved in the overtime scandal that are
That was
unnamed.
huge.
So I don't know if there's a huge connection there or any connection at all there,
Right.
but it is an aspect that I've been digging into, because I mean, if someone
How much
ratted on
do you
someone
guys in the
else,
chat think Boston cops make? How much do you think like an average Boston cop who works,
their
I
annual
don't know,
salary.
60 hours a week? Like, and just, I mean, there are records out there online where you can see what they make, but $36,000, really? Well,
AMAC thinks 150.
50K, 30K, 150K.
Mm.
Do you want to know how much Brian Albert made? Brian Albert, the owner of the house, $241,962.35, and that was in
Tracy,
2020.
how much of that did he make in overtime?
A lot.
Quite a bit. A big chunk of it is overtime, and Boston has this huge overtime scandal. So it's just one aspect I can't help but look into.
Yeah.
Not making any allegations, just something.
In 2020, he made $241,000. His base pay is $133,000. Okay? It's insane.
But see, it's not impossible, because my husband makes more in overtime than he does in base pay too. So I'm not, saying, oh yeah, he did something just because of that. But when you already have a known scandal happening, it's something to look down.
It's a wild thing. Like Boston, you make a lot of money. And they were looking for like their percentage of raises they ask for are no fucking joke. They'll ask for like 25% across the board. Like 25%? What? 25%? Are you fucking kidding?
Really's exactly right, though, especially with a union. That's overtime is where a lot of money comes into play, especially unions. But
yeah,
I agree, though. It's just something that, like, when you have this huge scandal where you have multiple officers in different uh, specialized fields of what they're doing involved in it.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It is a lot. So, oh my God, voice.
16,000 a year. That's not even that shit. Like you could make more at McDonald's.
Fact.
That is sad.
That's terrible, man.
That tells us what we need to know about law enforcement, unfortunately, and like where they rank with in some places.
So John O'Keefe's pay in 2020, he had a reported pay of $96,000. That was his, John J. O'Keefe, Boston police officer. Yeah, about 96,000. It looked like.
That's what a Boston police officer makes.
Well, that's his base pay. His overtime was about 75,000, and he made a total of 166,000. John O'Keefe did.
See, this is why a lot of law enforcement officers are going to different things. My son-in-law went into a security at a high place because it makes double what the base pay of.
In 2021, he made 150,000. And it, you know, the bulk is in the overtime.
Mm-hmm.
You know, or you get it. It's almost double. You're almost getting like double paid for the overtime. Yeah. Is Massa
Well,
wealthy
I mean, I
state?
told you our
Very.
numbers, and yeah, most of the overtime is huge because it is, especially like in union jobs or things like this. It's a big portion of it. Oh, 10 years ago. Dude. Yeah, I wouldn't think that it's a lot for. Oh, wait, hang on a second. Someone sent me. Thank you. Let me read this.
The cost of living in Boston is a lot for a single man, but it's huge. It's the cost of living in Boston. I will tell you that when my sister and I were able to sell the house that we inherited, she stayed in Massachusetts and I left. My house is bigger by about 1,000 square feet, maybe, I guess. And her house costs $300,000 more than my house. And she left. You know, she's out in like a little suburb, kind of. It's crazy. 150K is nothing for a family where I am 3 hours away from Boston. Yeah. So for like a single dude, 150,000, you're doing all right. I mean, you got maybe a one bedroom, maybe a studio, something like that. But yeah.
So this document that Lolly put out in June states that the victim's clothing consisting of blue jeans, an orange t-shirt, and long sleeve gray shirt. Boxers shorts were soaking wet and saturated with blood and vomit.
Say that one more time about his shirt and boxes.
Okay, so the victim's clothing consisting of blue jeans, an orange t-shirt, long sleeve gray shirt, and boxer shorts were soaking wet and saturated with blood and vomit.
Blood and vomit.
And
well, that's definitely not an orange shirt. That's a
that's
deep red shirt, but so they were saturated with blood and vomit. What the hell?
Why would you have vomit?
I don't get it. I don't.
I want to hear your Boston accent, Gabble.
Yeah, now I gotta hop off anyway.
Holy pancakes.
Holy pancakes.
Holy pancakes. Correct. Correct.
Say wicked pissa.
Wicked pissa.
Well, that's not. That's not bad.
Wicked kisser. I
can't. Well, that's a good question. Was there vomit in the snow if his clothes were saturated with all this stuff? No, because there were only 6 blood drops that they collected. Like, what land do we live in?
Vomit outside or in the vehicle.
It's just too much, man. Did he choke on his puke? I mean, they didn't say that in the autopsy. You know, you would think perhaps that he aspirated, but No, they
Head
said
injury
that
will
he
cause
did not
bleeding.
aspirate. They didn't say he didn't aspirate. They said he died from blunt force trauma.
Well, to be fair, though, to be
And
fair,
hypothermia.
we have not seen the full autopsy
True.
because we've only seen parts that are put into documents.
But they
So,
didn't say that
no.
the cause of manner or even any of that was aspiration, right? They
Mm-mm.
said blunt force trauma.
Yeah.
And
Wait,
he had
how did
like
his
skull
boxers?
fractures and huh? How did his
How did-
boxer? Yeah, saturated.
What about his jeans? Were his jeans? Was he naked? Like running around in
It
his boxers?
says, well, it says everything. It just says the victim's clothing consisting of blue jeans, an orange t-shirt, long sleeve gray shirt, and boxer shorts were soaking wet and saturated with blood and vomit. So it's just kind of including everything
Got
into
ya.
the statement.
God, that's so upsetting. It's so upsetting.
Thank you for sending me that, love.
Ugh. Oh yeah, Remy, you're 100% right. And that's maybe 2K square foot with a small yard. Yeah.
8 to 10 a year.
You
Yeah,
lucky you ever get a yard there.
ours
Girl,
is about half of that, but
you are not
Texas
getting a yard unless you move out to the suburbs.
taxes in Illinois are extremely high. It's crazy here.
There have to be tears in his arm sleeves. Soaking wet from being in the snow. Yeah, but saturated with blood and vomit. So
That's the thing.
saturated, it doesn't mean there were droplets. It means it was saturated. That's different. Yeah.
That's
Several brain
really,
fractures.
that's the one thing that stands out to me is that
Mhm.
I don't think it matters what anybody's theory is, right? I think once you lay it all out, and Gavel and I were talking about this just yesterday, I think. Once you lay it all out, you see a huge disservice happening to John O'Keefe. And I think that's
Huge.
why I'm so passionate about it and not wanting to put blame where it doesn't belong because we just don't know. But the fact that this young man who adopted his niece and nephew, so then now you have this woman out there who has lost 2 of her children. But
Ugh.
he's adopted his niece and nephew. He's working hard in law enforcement. He's reconnected with a love that he had previously, and they got back together. And you just see a life
It's so sad.
that has so much left in it.
Yeah.
And these people are not, his brothers in blue did not appear to handle it with care. And I think that's really infuriating for me. Sorry, I didn't mean to get all like soapboxy, but it's just so frustrating.
No, I was crying reading about his family and what they've been through already, and before he died, and those kids.
The kids.
It's not fair.
And so you just want it. I mean, but I want that for everyone. I feel everyone's case should be handled with care. But just to see that, we see what happens when law enforcement get, when they're murdered or when they are in an accident, or especially in the line of duty, how much they come
Right.
together and stand up for one another. And it just feels like they didn't give John that courtesy.
It does feel that way, sadly. Well, I mean, I don't know what they thought was going on, and the trooper that volunteered for the job just happens to know them. That's for the whole state.
This motherfucking thing isn't all working.
What?
I heard.
What are you trying to do?
My whole fucking my microphone got undone, and then it undoes everything, and it's so annoying. It happened while Dietz was talking. My foot hit the wire, and everything just undid itself, including my speaker. So I can see her icon moving, but there's nothing, and I'm like, oh, my whole computer's broke. That's nice. Exactly what Dietz was saying, man. It's like, you got this good guy who steps up and he's taking care of his kids. And in that Facebook group, hell yeah, they are passionate about this. Like they really are. And I applaud them for that, because without them, where is the attention for this coming from? Like, he deserves so much more than what was done for him in this situation. If by chance she hit him by accident, none of his friends or people were observant enough to notice him laying there dying, right? And it like an hour after they left. So he clearly probably wasn't dead then, because he wasn't dead when they found him in the morning. So nobody helped him if that happened. If he died inside that house, then clearly they're complicit. Even if they were drunk, they're still complicit in this whole thing. And like, he was a good guy. So now you got these two kids who have no parents and they have no uncle now. They don't have Karen, even if they didn't necessarily get along 100%. They still don't have her. And it's like the whole town of Canton, if you read about it, they're like fucking pulled apart at the same time.
Yeah, it's division big time.
They're so
And
divided.
I think that the reason so many are so passionate about this case is the fact that John could be any one of our husbands.
Absolutely.
Karen could be any one of us. It's just the everyday middle class working man who this thing happened to him, and his own coworkers, his own brothers in blue don't seem to be, or they're
not fighting.
There doesn't seem to be like the investigation that he deserves that we've seen with other law enforcement officers.
Yeah, because as soon as they charged her, did you see them standing in that courtroom? That's pure intimidation. Are you there for justice for John? Are you there because you're against Karen Read? Those are two separate things, right?
That was the very first thing I saw about this case. And I went, what in the hell is going on?
Right.
That was weird.
They were just lined everywhere. And it's like, what is the fear here? Is there a fear of something breaking out in the courtroom?
Well,
because I don't see that. I didn't see
baffled.
that. And if so, you're on standby, not standing in the aisles.
Right.
That's intimidation in my mind.
There was home improvement, yes. The basement floor. And then they sold it. How many months after, Dietz, did they sell the house that's been in the family forever?
They sold it in November, or they listed it for sale in November. It took 4 months, and it sold. It was the end of November, and it sold 4 months later, into March, beginning of April of 23.
It's crazy to me, man. It really is.
Yeah, they sold the house, AMAC. They did. It was the house that had been in his family for generations, is what they say. But you know, you can go on Zillow and look and see when it was bought and sold previously. I don't know if that was bought and sold amongst family members or what.
I gotta hop down. Jace just got home, so.
That's yeah. I need to get off here and get back to work too.
I love you so much.
Yep.
Thank you guys for coming and listening to us again.
Yeah.
We'll be back for part 3.
Bye, y'all.
Thank you guys. Love.